Hey, all you happy citizens of Pawnee and points beyond. Nick Newport Sr. here, wishing you all a happy Easter. And it is snowing up here in the Berkshires in western Massachusetts. But it doesn't matter, because the Easter Bunny put out a couple of old crates of Sweetums bars instead of Easter eggs, so all the children are fast asleep and snug in their beds, just like Christmas Eve. Greetings to you all, and to all a good night.
Some pals, and there's also therapy too.
Hey Park Pals, how's it going? How you doing? Are you hanging in there? Hope that you are. I'm doing a bit of a Mark Maron opening right now if you listen to that podcast, but if not, hope that everyone's hanging in there, doing well. Thank you for your patience on getting this episode / this new episode out to you. Madi and I both have full-time jobs, and I was out of town last week, and life's a lot. It just is. So hope everybody's hanging in and not in crippling depression, as I feel as though a lot of things in the world might lead you to go toward. But we have some fun, exciting happiness coming at you. I just wanted to do a little intro moment because Madi is not joining us for the full episode today. But she does an amazing job doing the summary. And then also, I just wanted to give her a shout out because she's doing wedding stuff this weekend. And I really just know how stressful that is. And if you've ever planned a wedding or, have any empathy at all, you understand how many moving pieces there are to planning a wedding, plus having a job, plus just being a person, a human in this world. So there's that. So thank you, Madi, for doing the summary. And then I also wanted, and just for being awesome, obviously, I feel like I never say enough. And then with Crystal, we have a guest host, Crystal Leigh. She is a musician here in Nashville. She was so wonderful. She was a huge Parks and Rec fan. So we are in good hands today. We go through a lot of tangents, so please feel free to pause and start fresh next time or something if you need to, because we go off on this one. All right. Crystal is on Spotify and Apple Music, all the things. Follow her on Instagram, Crystal Leigh. She'll say it at the end the way that she spells it, but Crystal, CrystalLeigh. She actually opened for me for my very first single release here in Nashville. I didn't get a chance to talk about that, which is wild. That was like 3 years ago, almost 4 maybe. Shoot, I don't know the math on that. Maybe 3. But regardless, still super cool. I'm so glad that we've built this relationship and we're friends and can talk about Parks and Rec. So super awesome. She's been a supporter of the show for a while, so I'm glad that she's able to join us and, rant about all things parks. This is loaded with guest stars, you guys. So please bear with me on everybody's voice memos that they might have sent in. And I don't know how I'm going to edit this, so I'm just being on the real with y'all. Y'all are getting a little bit of how the sausage is made, okay? So just, I probably didn't even need to say that. I probably just could have just gave it to you straight or gave it to you the way that it is. Oh God, I think that could have been taken sexual. Okay. Please enjoy 94 meetings. Enjoy. Oh, and do not forget to rate, subscribe, all the things. Give us a review, please. We need those reviews. If we're going to team up with Rob Lowe and Alan Yang, we got to have that review, okay? Okay, thank you so much. And have a great week, you guys. Hang in there. We believe in you. Thanks from your Park Pals.
There's a park and some pals, and there's also therapy too.
Oh my gosh, I kind of want to tell people where we met. Just because it's really funny. So first of all, everyone, this is Crystal Dockery. Or Crystal Leigh, rather, for music-wise.
Yeah, let's use that for music.
Okay, yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay, I'll scratch out the Dockery. No. Anyway, no. Okay, so what's it? Okay, so there's this open mic thing called the Nashville Rising Song. You guys were in Nashville. And it was, I don't even know how to explain it. It was basically an open mic, but you could do a competition, and it was like an American Idol type situation.
Yeah, they had judges. And
yeah, that's right.
They did have the judges. Did we go multiple times together, or did we just meet one night?
I think it was multiple times.
I think we met maybe the first night when we all just had like come for the first time.
Yes.
And we were hoping to get called up. It was one of those situations where you don't know when you're going to get called up, if you're going to get called up, and that's how they keep you there all night. God.
And then you have to get there like 2 hours before so they can put your name on the list.
Yeah, you can't leave because if they call your name and you're not there, they
basically lose out.
Yeah, you lose out. So that's how they just make you sit there the whole time. And
they did like a Facebook Live too situation where like you could have people watch and vote. And people would come from far away. Like there was that one guy from like Kentucky or something. Well, I guess it's not far away, but it's like,
I mean,
people would
for
travel.
Open mic night, that's kind of far.
Right, exactly.
If you're not the Bluebird, I'm impressed people are going that far.
Yeah. And like the winning thing, if you won, was like an artist development situation.
I think it was like you get to record the song.
Yeah.
And I think they were going to pitch it to somebody or something, or, I mean, what they tell everybody.
Right. Exactly.
I'm sure it's true. I'm not knocking them at all. I'm sure it's true. But we met there.
I still have a bitter taste in my mouth because you can also pay to go.
Oh, Holly.
You can also pay to be a part of this open mic because, like you said, you have to wait. And I didn't want to wait. Or no, you didn't want to wait, and I didn't want to wait either.
Right.
But just to like guarantee it, I was like, I guess we can like pay a tiny bit.
Yeah. It was like $25.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, I mean,
and then you did it.
I did. I paid the $25.
And then we got to the end.
You were up in arms.
I was so frustrated because we got to the end of the night and they hadn't called your name. And I was like, absolutely fucking not.
And we were there for hours.
Yes!
Enduring some terrible people, by the way, performing. Because this was not like this was like a anything goes kind of situation.
100%. Yeah, you didn't have to like really audition or do
it was not curated at all.
No.
Yeah,
it was just a regular open mic,
totally
which is
regular.
Yeah,
you
which
never
is
know
like
what you're
a great opportunity for you. But I loathe having to pay to play or anywhere. Like taking advantage of hungry artists is just
the principle of it.
Yeah, stupid. So then I was like really frustrated, and I was like, I'm gonna go up there. Don't worry, I'll go up there. I almost did, but then you did, and you were like, hey, I did pay. Are you gonna have me play?
And then they were like, of course. And I was literally the last one. Oh. And then didn't win anything. So it was just insult to injury, of course. But they're like, oh yeah, we'll let her play. It doesn't matter. We've already picked who's gonna win.
Exactly. Oh my god! But honestly, if anything, our friendship came from it.
I know.
And then I still follow some of the people that we met on.
I do too.
Instagram. So
yeah,
it is what it is. But thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh!
This
Thank
so
you so
fun.
much for having me. I love Parks and Rec. Yay! It is probably my favorite TV show.
Oh my god!
So I was just so delighted when you asked.
Yay.
Because I was like, oh, this gives me a perfect opportunity to rewatch some Effies.
Literally. And it's just like we were talking about before we got on mic. It's just really interesting to hear or see or like watch it as an analyzing.
Yeah.
Eye instead of an audience
like
eye.
What would I
want to
talk about?
Yeah.
After watching this. Yeah. I'm so excited.
Okay. So I have a bit of a recap like I told you.
Yes.
So please bear with me because it's a long one. And I'm sorry about it, but also it's really interesting to me. So the last episode that we did for the rewatch was Summer Catalog, which was super fun. And she says, Leslie says, I made love to the pooch instead of screw the pooch. And we were like, where the hell does that come from?
Yeah.
And so what we ended up doing, or what I ended up doing, was going on this like 20-minute deep dive, and I went on a whirlwind. So bear with me.
I'm so excited for this.
Okay, so I found an article from 2014 on Slate.com.
Yeah.
This was written by Ben Zimmer. Screw the Pooch was popularized by the 1979 book-turned-movie The Right Stuff by Tom Wolfe, which I had never heard of.
I've never heard of that movie.
Yeah, since it was the 70s, I'm sure that's not like
Right.
our generation. But that's most likely what people have heard it on. And it's based on this Mercury 7 space program of the 1960s, which is, and then the book and the film both depict characters repeatedly using Screw the Pooch, which is an effort to use actual NASA jargon and slang of the day.
Wait, what?
I know. How is
NASA?
that? Literally. Okay. So in the movie, Gus Grissom, who is this character played by Fred Ward, is about to become the second American in space. And his fellow astronaut, Gordon Cooper, who is played by Dennis Quaid, by the way, which we love Dennis Quaid. I love Dennis Quaid.
Yes.
Parent Trap, hello.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dennis Quaid warns Gus, just make sure you don't screw the pooch, Gus. And that's kind of where it came from. But there's also, again, this is a spiral that I went on.
Sure.
There's also this, get ready because it's kind of weird, but there are different schools of thought because there's this old military saying, fuck the dog.
Okay.
Which I'm so sorry, you guys, but that is what happened. And dictionaries of American slang recognize that screw the pooch must have developed as a euphemism for older military vulgarism, which,
Sure.
like, if you were in the military, yeah, that's how they, or like government in general, that's
Sure.
just how they speak. If you've ever seen Veep, like, hello. But this phrase appeared in Jack Conroy's novel, A World to Win, the fuck the dog one.
Yeah.
So that's just an aside, but back to the original story about the movie. Okay. There were two Yale graduate students, Jack May and John Rawlings, and Jack had a radio show for Yale where he was called DJ Candied Yam Jackson. You guys, the story just keeps getting better and weirder. But anyway, okay, hang tight. They were architecture students, and John, not the DJ, but the DJ's friend, was late on one of their projects. And Jack said, "You're late, John. You're like fouling up. You are fucking the dog," which was the second thing. And John was like, "Really? You're so vulgar and coarse. Like, I don't want to hear that noise." And he was like, Jack, the DJ, was like, "Well, you're still late. You're screwing the pooch. Is this better?" And they said this on their radio station before this movie. So they kind of have this idea that they were the ones that coined the term and someone must have been listening or something.
And was like, I like that.
Right.
Put it in a movie.
Exactly. Exactly. And who's to say if this is really true? I don't know, obviously. But the person who did this article said that, or what did it say? Okay, wait. John was the one that was going to be late. He eventually went to work in the Air Force. Okay, so he designed early prototypes of spacesuits that were used on chimpanzees to be launched into space. So again, this is all being tied together back to NASA, like WTF. What? And so also, have you watched Space Force yet with
Okay, we've
Carell?
seen, so we endeavored to start it, and we got maybe a couple epis in, and some event happened or some news show happened that we got sucked into instead. So it wasn't because we didn't like it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was pretty funny.
Well, yeah, we talked about it on the pod, and I wasn't, if I'm being honest, I feel bad saying it, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I think I need to rewatch it again. But the reason I ask is because they do this really long episode about a chimpanzee in space and like him testing out what an astronaut would do,
right?
Kind of being the prototype. So that part is real. So anyway, meaning that like this guy who designed prototypes of spacesuits actually did happen. But anyway, so he was launched into space, this chimpanzee or whatever. And when DJ Candied Yam Jackson, I know, right? heard that in the movie The Right Stuff, he was so convinced that John had somehow taken that saying that he had said on the radio show and somehow introduced it to the space world / the coworkers of his at NASA / Air Force.
That is wild.
And so that's kind of where Screw the Pooch may or may not have come from.
I think that is so funny. I would have never have thought that was where it would come from.
Same. NASA? That's weird. But anyway, so that is why or how Leslie says that. So I don't know if you guys are interested, but there's that. And then the next one is that Marta, the waitress, who we love, who sent in some voice memos in Summer Catalog. I asked her where they filmed that JJ's Diner scene because previously we had said that it was on 4 and 20, which is the restaurant called 4 and 20 in the Valley. But she sent me an email that said, I'm going to read her email. It said, actually, I was not, at least not for filming, been there as a customer, and I'm so sad it didn't make it through the pandemic. But for summer, yeah, I know, which is sad. For summer catalog, we were in another restaurant in the Valley. I don't remember the name, but the whole place was like an homage to the golden age of movie westerns. It had stained glass windows of John Wayne. What a hoot, she says. The exterior was what they used for the bar April and Andy go to, which is when she can't get in because she's under 21. Right. And they filmed it right after my scene was done. And then for Campaign Shakeup, it was on a studio lot. So there were lots of JJs. I thought it was only 2 because one had closed. Or no, sorry. The exterior is in Atlanta. Oh. And then 4 and 20 was the interior, I thought. But then again, that actually did close because they didn't make it through the pandemic. So
sad.
Pour one out for JJs.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I have 2 last recaps, and then we'll get into 94 meetings. So I messaged Burley because he was in Andy and April's fancy party, which is their wedding. And we just interviewed Michael Trim, who directed that. And I'm going to read his email to you because technically he meant this email for Ben and Leslie's wedding, but he read it as, or I sent him about Andy and April's wedding, but he read my email thinking that I was talking about Leslie and Ben.
Sure.
But anyway, he says, hang on, but here's a little trivia that will totally blow your mind. I actually wasn't in that episode. Again, speaking of Ben and Leslie's wedding. It was a Burley body double. In an absolutely insane coincidence, I was getting married in real life on the day they were shooting Ben and Leslie's wedding, so I wasn't available, and I was so bummed out to miss the Pawnee wedding of the year. But my wedding was amazing, so hey, no sadness here. They had to get a different guy and basically shoot it so that his face wasn't really in the shots.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? So if you watch Ben and Leslie's wedding, that's not Burley in there.
Wow.
So you can't really see his face, I guess. You just see his body, but wild.
I would not have man,
I wouldn't have known.
Now I'm going to watch it. And I'm going to be like, oh my gosh. And then I'm going to tell my husband, I know something you don't know.
Yeah, so a little bit of trivia for you guys. And then I also emailed Kyle or Andy Forrest, who is the actor who plays Kyle. And I asked him what it was like for Fluoride because Michael Trim also directed Fluoride. And he said it was just a fast day in the park. Aziz was fun to be around. Michael, the director, was great. It was short and a sweet bit. It was a short and sweet bit. They may have had another thing shooting elsewhere. I don't remember because I asked him where exactly it was, but he doesn't really remember, which is totally fine. I always say to guests, this was over 15 years ago, which is gnarly to think about.
Yeah, that makes me feel real old.
But anyway, and then he said to tell Mr. Trim I say hello. He has worked on so many great shows, which is true.
Yeah.
So thank you to Kyle and Burley and for you guys for listening to that Screw the Pooch thing. And to Anna Ray Octay, who plays Marta the waitress.
Yeah.
Thank you for sending that in. But okay, 94 meetings.
Oh my gosh.
What a
classic
great episode. It's so good.
So
Season
good.
2, episode 21. Cannot believe we used to have this many episodes in a season. I feel like nowadays we have maybe 10 or 12.
Right.
And to have 24 on network. I wonder if network shows have 24 episodes still.
I am not the person to ask that question.
Same.
Too.
I don't really watch network.
No idea.
Except maybe Grey's Anatomy does. I bet they are just insane anyway. They've been going on for 15 or 16 seasons, I think now. My mom still watches it. But anyway, this is the episode of guest stars, you guys. I spent so much time researching and emailing all of these guest stars because obviously we have 94 meetings. So there's 13 or so people that were on here. And full disclosure, I didn't have a ton of time to prep them / give them time to respond back to me voice memo. So it might not be live. I might have to add it out or add their voice memos in later.
Sure.
Which is fine. But I do have some. So get excited for that.
Yay.
And then I think that's it as far as just up front. What are your initial thoughts on this? Do you just love this episode so much?
Well, I think this episode to me is relatable on so many levels. When I was watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. The whole time. I think up front, one of the first things that I was like, yes, I can totally relate to that is when Leslie gets mistaken for being sarcastic and she's actually not.
Yes.
About like, hey, can I run something by you? And she's
Yeah.
like, yes, I love when people run things by me. And they're like, oh, and then he's like, no, seriously. And it's like, that happens to me all the time because I feel like people don't understand that I'm really not that sarcastic of a person.
Yeah.
And so I will say things like, yeah, I really do. Like, that would be great. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, no, seriously.
I'm
like,
not joking.
I mean this. So I feel like there's just moments like that throughout this entire episode where I just felt these like very common, normal, like, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
I can totally relate to these emotions or that situation. And it's just hilarious.
Yeah, totally.
So,
I was laughing out loud all the time.
Yeah.
But I also, to your point, I think that we're also both very excitable people.
Yes.
We might be similar in that regard where like other people, when they hear the excitement, they're like, oh, she's not serious. Like there's no way anyone can be that excited.
Right.
And people will tell me that definitely. They're like, oh, you're always so excited. And I'm always like, sorry? Question mark.
like,
But also, like, I have flaws too. I'm not always excited, but I'm serious when I am.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, yeah, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
This is being excited about certain things or just, I don't know what it is, but people all the time like think I'm being sarcastic about stuff and I'm really not. Just like legitimately excited or like into something that they, I guess, didn't expect
think
me
that
to
they
be.
would. Yeah. I am kind of sarcastic, so maybe that's like where the disconnect is, because sometimes I will be excited and sometimes I am sarcastic, so no one can tell the difference.
It's a gamble.
But exactly. But anyway, okay, so let's get started with the crew here. This was directed by Tristram Shapiro, who we've seen before. He directed The Possum, which is amazing. But he also did the Partridge episode where Ben goes back to his hometown. Oh my God, hilarious.
Yeah.
And friendly reminder, he's done Community, Unbreakable, Kimmy Schmidt, Workaholics, Veep, which if you're just now joining us, Parks has so much Veep crossover. It's insane. So really great. And then written by Harris Whittles. Pour one out. He is no longer with us. We have talked so much about him. He was a huge part of Parks, both writing, story editing, coming up with like one-liners, and just such iconic jokes. But friendly reminder that he also worked with / wrote / produced Master of None with Aziz and Alan Yang. And he also came up with the term humble brag, which it became a
really?
Yes, it became a viral tweet of his.
Amazing.
So he is coined as coming up with that, which is wonderful. But since both of these people are repeats, I don't really have much else to say about them. And then Madi has sent us in a summary, so we are going to go ahead and get that started. Here she goes.
Let the chaos begin. Due to April not thinking March 31st exists, she has scheduled 93 meetings with Ron for that date, and that date is today. While Leslie is trying to help cover the meetings, it is brought to her attention that Jessica Wicks is trying to tear down a historic gazebo. Leslie, with Tom in tow, attempts to save this precious part of Pawnee. Meanwhile, some of Ron's meetings turn into medical consults when Anne steps in to help the Parks and Rec crew.
Yeah, thank you, Madi, for that. So cute. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Side note, yes, good point that it is technically 93 meetings.
Yes.
And the 94th is April coming in.
I made a note of that because when she first says that in the episode, I was like, wait a second. And I forgot what the 94 was. And then
there she is.
Of course. There
Yep.
she is.
It's about me and I'm quitting now.
Yeah.
It's with me.
Yeah, it's with me.
Awesome. But yes. Okay. So thank you, Madi, for that summary. Love it so much. Yes. Let the chaos begin. So many things happening. This cold open, like you talked about, Mark comes in and he wants Leslie's opinion on something and she loves having things run by her. But even when I was watching it, I got to admit, her tone is a little bit sarcastic to me, just me personally. Oh, Phoebe.
Phoebe
oh my
and
gosh,
me are
Phoebe's jumping
friends
up
now.
on Crystal.
Yes, I
I
love
was going
it.
to shut the door, but they always scratch at it.
No,
so
let the kitties play.
Okay,
let the
thank
kitties
you.
play.
Phoebe. The audience is just used. Park Pals are used to hearing her and Maddie's dog, so
Yeah, we're
it's
good.
fine. She's just another cast member. But if you need to push her down, you can. It's
Oh,
okay.
no, I'm good.
I
I'm
do
all about
that.
it.
Oh, anyway. Okay, so it did sound sarcastic, but obviously it's not. And then Mark is asking if he should ask Anne to move in with her.
Ugh.
I feel like this is very precious that Mark is asking Leslie to weigh
Yes.
in here, like further solidifying their relationship of like Mark being the voice of reason for Leslie. But oh my gosh, I would love to hear your thoughts because my thoughts are that when I first heard this, I was like, don't move in, don't do it. Just like it's not right.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that repetitive? I think
You can disagree with me too.
what I think what kind of gave me the red flag was his reasoning of like, I'm worried Anne doesn't think things are moving. And I feel like there should be an open line of communication there, right?
Yeah.
Like instead of trying to like guess, like maybe this is what she's wanting. I feel like it would be like, why don't we have a conversation about this and see how she feels?
Yeah.
Instead of being like, I think this is how Anne is feeling. Maybe I should do this.
Yeah, and like this is the right step, quote unquote, you know what I
Right.
mean? But like, is it, you know? And that's also what he does, I feel, a little bit later, and kind of why they go on their downfall, and what they talk about after they break up, spoiler, but we already know that what's going to happen, and that everyone knows that I talk about it anyway. But like, she says that when they're at the diner or whatever, she's like, maybe you feel this way because you've never had like a really long-term relationship kind of before. But yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
I also really like his performance. Like, he's not really making eye contact. He's nervous, and he takes Leslie, like, he's just like, do you think it's a good idea? You know?
Yeah.
He's like taking Leslie very seriously, which is cute. And then we learned that Mark intends to marry Anne. He's like, raises his hand. He's like, I
thought
intend
that
to marry
was
her.
so I thought that was so well done.
Yeah.
And I really felt like that emotion of like him actually, like, he believes he's in it.
Right.
You know, and that was kind of one
That's
of
a
those
great way
things
to
where-
point it. He believes he's in it.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah. And I just totally felt that. I thought that was such a brilliant way to communicate those like emotions, but hesitancy, but also like stake in the ground.
Yeah.
I was all about that moment. I thought that was a really well done
Yeah,
little
because he
moment.
especially like kind of cuts Leslie off too. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like he's thinking about it.
Right.
He's like, I do intend to marry her. This would be the next step technically.
Yeah.
But yeah, the reasoning's a little off.
Yeah.
So I do love Leslie's talking head here. She's like, how does it make me feel? Makes me feel nauseous. And then she's like, if I could sum it up in one word, it'd be
That is one of my favorite. Like, I put that in quotes on my
great.
little notes of like, if I could just sum it up in one word, it would be, and then it's just like
A gasp.
scribbles. Yeah, because I just think that is so
I'm gonna highlight
hilarious,
that line.
and it made me laugh.
Oh my
and
God.
I thought it was so great, and I loved the way they cut it up. You know, it was
Yes.
really, the editing right there was really funny.
Oh my gosh, Dean Holland, that's the editor. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, love it. So now we're moving on to where we learn that April has accidentally scheduled people because she didn't think March 31st existed.
Which, can we say, so relatable.
So relatable.
Do you know that
No.
rhyme?
I don't know that.
I
rhyme.
don't know that rhyme either. I mean, I knew March didn't go there because it didn't sound right, but I could not tell you.
I didn't know that
I
either.
didn't- yeah.
I was going to actually ask, maybe I'll put it in our stories because I think my mom might have said that one time, but I didn't say that growing up. But I know
No.
people that did say it growing
Yeah.
up. And I'm like,
For some people, it's like how they remember. I just can't, honestly. Also, there's supposed to be some
oh,
sort
yeah,
of
the
knuckle trick,
thing.
right?
Yes.
Except I don't know how it works.
I don't either. But someone will write in. No, I'm
So
just
yeah, just like
phone lines are open. No, I'm just
if
kidding.
you know how the knuckle thing works, please inform us.
No.
Because I've always just been like, it's like every other, but I know not. It's the months aren't every other between
Yeah.
30 and 31, and then
Yeah, okay. I wrote down the saying. She thought the saying was 30 days has September, April, March, and November, but it's June.
yeah.
April, June, and November.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is wild. Also, the timing for this syncs up because it's April now, and we just posted like Parks and Rec, and everybody posted about the March
Right.
31st.
Yes, so
'Cause it was
timely.
March 31st.
Yeah. It's like today,
Oops.
Ron Swanson has 94 meetings.
Yep. Oh my gosh. I love Ron's line here too. To me, this situation is a blood-soaked, nightmarish hellscape. I love his dramatic metaphors. They keep
Yes.
increasing.
Like
You're raising the
escalating.
stakes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every single one.
Oh
Oh, my
my
gosh.
God.
So good.
And then Leslie comes in because this will be fun and she can take as many meetings as possible. She tries to get it to an even 100
I
meetings.
love the rounding up. I feel like
too.
that would be me. Like, I have a great idea. Let's make it 100 because
Yeah.
that feels clean
Yes.
and it feels epic and it
Yes.
feels like it would feel really good. And I just love that was her attitude.
Check off your list.
Yes, absolutely.
Such a good Leslie character thing to say that too. It's like one line and it's perfect.
Right.
I love that also she's wearing Tom's boots.
That made me laugh so. And just like the little comment that they're like a little too narrow for her was just like, I just imagining his dainty little feet in those boots.
I know. Perfect
and
description for Tom too. And I love the reveal. It's like it's showing, it doesn't show Tom in the shot, so we don't know it's his. And he's like, I'm going to need those back. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, so good. And he would own those boots.
Oh my God, of course.
He would.
Yeah, he probably has like heaters in them somehow, like sewn into the sides.
Yeah.
Like those little heat packets that you take to like football games when it's cold outside.
He has like the cleaning pack for it.
Oh yeah,
you know, like how to
set.
clean all the little like suede or whatever
Absolutely.
and stuff. Like who actually does that? Let's be real.
Oh my God, Tom. Little narrow feet. Oh my gosh. Oh God. Okay, then we get to Bill Haggerty, who is the Pawnee Historical Society.
Yeah, which
first
also
introduction of him.
that is the name of a senator for Tennessee.
Oh, yes.
Hello.
Oh my God, Crystal.
And they kind of look alike.
Okay,
I'm not gonna lie. You need to. I mean, this Bill Haggerty in Parks and Rec looks like, you know, a little more dweeby and not put together.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Oh my God.
Okay,
You're so
right?
Like the brown hair.
yes, like if
and
you messed up his hair and put some
little
glasses on
older,
him, he would look just like that
a
guy.
little nerdy.
Like I rewound it because I mean, like we talked about when you're watching it for the purpose of like talking about it with somebody and kind of like trying to find these little nuggets.
details.
I was like, wait, what was his name? And I like rewound it and I was like, I know that name. And I Googled it and was like, Tennessee State Senator. And I was like, get out. And then they looked alike and I was like, okay.
I didn't even put that together because I definitely remember seeing his like campaign signs.
Yeah. All
on
over the
highway.
place. Yeah.
Oh
in
my
yards
God.
and stuff. And I was like, why does that sound so familiar?
I'm so glad you said that. I'm going to highlight that too so I know to post a picture of it for you guys. Or you guys just pause right now and look him up. Or don't just leave it running and Google
And then
it.
just imagine like messing up his hair and putting those
Put some
glasses on.
glasses.
And like, did
With
he
like
make
a tweed
Yeah, like
suit
did
jacket.
he make an appearance? Is he a fan of Parks and Rec?
Oh my God. This guy
So
was
funny.
so great, and I'm sorry to take it down, but take it down a notch rather. But he also passed away.
No, stop.
I know.
Oh.
Yes, his name was Hamilton Mitchell. So pour one out. We thank you so much for your service, Hamilton. But I felt kind of embarrassed because I was emailing his agents, as I always do for
Sure.
every guest, and they were like, "Oh, he passed away," and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry that I messaged you
Yeah.
and bothered you about this." Oh my God.
Oh.
But he passed away in January of last year. I don't know what exactly happened. I tried to Google what it was. I found
Sure.
his obituary, which was very special, but it didn't
Oh.
say how it happened. So maybe, I don't know if it was COVID related or
Right.
whatever, but either way, he was fantastic
Yes.
in this. And I love that he comes back. He comes back for the, what is it? I wrote it down. He comes back for the Grizzle thing. William Harrison. William Henry Harrison, because he's that museum.
Yeah.
But he was also he was a regular on the Nickelodeon show Ned's Declassified, which I think is a great show.
No way.
I know, had no idea.
No.
And then Worst Year Ever, which is a CW show. He was also in Caddyshack, Alias, and then of course, Bill Haggerty. Yes, William Henry Harrison. I did write it down. Sorry, I missed it before. When Leslie's trying to find a celebrity for Pawnee to get Grizzle to stop buying Pawnee's land,
Right.
and so Ron has Bloosh Lady, and then Leslie, or is Bloosh right or something like
Yeah,
that?
it's something funny like that. Yeah.
Basically Goop, but
Yeah.
Bloosh. Yes, and then Leslie gets this guy, William Henry Harrison, and then they go to the museum. So interesting. But anyway, so he comes in because Jessica Wicks is making alterations to the Turnbill Mansion, and Leslie's freaked out because it's one of the most beloved historical sites in Pawnee.
Yeah.
And it's named Turnbill, which I didn't catch this. Like, we've watched this 100,000 times,
Right.
but I didn't catch that the reason it's called Turnbill is because Reverend Turnbill of Pawnee performed a marriage ceremony on the gazebo,
Right.
marrying a Wamapoke Indian and a white woman.
Right.
Have you watched 1883?
No.
Oh my God. Okay. If you haven't yet, you need to.
Okay.
It's on Paramount though, so it might be tricky. You can
Paramount
get a free
Plus?
trial. Yeah.
We got it.
Okay.
We got all. I have a husband who loves sports. We have every single streaming. They've got us. got us in the palm of their hand.
I was going to do, one of my friends, Amanda Jaros, is on it, and I bought it really only for her. And it was one of those things where I was like, I'll just do the free trial, and if I like it, I'll keep it.
Sure.
Of course I liked it.
Oh, how could you not?
There's so many things on there.
That's how they get you.
Do you watch Yellowstone?
No, but I saw when I was watching Parks and Rec on Peacock, streaming it on Peacock.
Yes.
They were advertising for Yellowstone, and I remember thinking, I might want to watch that.
Yeah. You definitely do.
Yeah.
You definitely do. I haven't, and I say
and
that
1883 is the before
the
Yellowstone,
prequel.
right?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
gotcha.
Correct. And the reason I say that is because, I do say this as someone who's only watched, I think, like 2 episodes of maybe like 5. I haven't watched all of Yellowstone, but the ones that I did watch, I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. It's like a movie in an hour. You know what I mean? Each one is such a cinematic masterpiece, and like story and plot and everything. But the reason I talk about 1883, because if you have watched it, you'll understand. But there's kind of a similar storyline with no spoilers really, but it's very the mural that they show behind Leslie of the Native Americans and the white people just like clashing together, which by the way is number one very realistic, and they did it like live action in 1883, which is wild to see and so intense. But that's another thing too with Yellowstone, and I don't mean to go on such a rant, but 1883 and Yellowstone, I feel like you have to be kind of mentally prepared because it is quite heavy. I will say, it's definitely like you can binge it, but it is quite heavy mentally.
Yeah.
But anyway, I loved this reveal that they're on the Native American and the lady in the gazebo, and then they zoom out and they show them running at each other, and they're so close. Like the cannons arrows are right in front of each other's faces. Oh God.
Yeah.
Yikes.
But you said you did some research.
Oh yeah, about the Turnbill thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we get to Jessica Wicks and like her talking about the gazebo, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that.
I don't want to jump the gun here.
Oh my gosh, no, I'm very intrigued to hear your thoughts on it too. I mean, but it's not. So Cheekwood here in Nashville is a mansion, and it's not based in Native American like racism, should I say, but it is interesting the similarities because it really is just a mansion with a lot of money, which I feel like Turnbill mostly was, apart from the racism. So anyway, okay, but I will tell you that.
Yes, so excited.
Yay. Okay, so then we have, where did I leave off? Oh, okay. At the mention of tearing down the gazebo, Leslie's like freaking out, and I love when she throws the keys at Tom.
Yeah,
oh my God.
It's like so painful. Doesn't catch it.
Ow, that's so funny. Okay, and then Ron is meeting/walking out with his first meeting.
Right.
And he is named Jonathan Palmer in real life, this actor. He's been in a bunch of stuff as well. And this is the start of a long line of guest stars that we will get to, so bear with me, but it's really interesting to learn about all these people. He's been in a bunch of stuff: The Middle, 2.5 Men, X-Files, Angie Tribeca, which is Rashida Jones's show, Rizzoli and Isles, a bunch of others. And what's so funny is that, now I said in a previous episode, I think it was Summer Catalog actually, where Marta, the waitress, Anna is her name, in real life, her manager reps a lot of people that were guest stars on Parks, and so I've kind of created this like professional relationship via email. Like, hey, I got another guest star that I'm interested in talking to you about, and they've been great. I'm so grateful and like honored that they will give me the time of day. Absolutely. So it's wonderful. But Jonathan Palmer, the reason I say that is because he's also repped by Anna's managers, and so he's going to send me a voice memo, which will be great. Cool. So I'll play that right here.
My experience on Parks and Rec was fantastic, from the audition all the way to when they released me. And although it was a small bit, I only had a couple of lines. I was very excited to be there, to be able to meet Nick and to meet Amy, who I always looked up to and always admired, and they lived up to my fantasies. They were just two of the sweetest, nicest people you'd want to meet, and that's always refreshing, you know, when you meet someone you admire and they live up to what you always thought. So it was just a couple of lines, and I remember we went through a rehearsal, and the director said to me, John, you're making it too easy on Nick. You got to make it harder on him to get you out of the office. And there was a brief pause while I didn't have the courage to say to the director, I know, I kind of forgot everything that this scene is about. I'm just really excited to be here, and I forgot how to act. So I just said, oh yes, yeah, I understand, yes. Well, a little glint in Nick's eye, and the finished product was not what was written, because once we got that fantastic note, I fought like hell to stay in that office, and it became a wrestling match, and I never, ever got my second line out. And I think Nick had also a line, too, that never got out, because it became about that physical bit of me getting out of the office. And I didn't care because it worked. It was just great fun to do. And I remember driving home and being a little depressed, because I felt like a little kid who got to spend his day at Disneyland and now he had to go home, day's over. And, the typical actor thing where you wonder, geez, how long do I have to wait before I have another wonderful day like this, or days, depending upon the job. But what a great experience, and one I'll always remember. And thanks, Holly, for asking me to do this.
So thank you for sending that in. And then, let's see. So Leslie leaves and Ron's freaking out because she goes, someone is trying to alter a gazebo.
Which, like, to her, the biggest deal ever.
The biggest deal ever.
Yeah.
I mean, especially how historical it gets.
Yeah.
Oh my
and
God.
to her, I love the sincerity of, like, how intense, like, and she has almost that air of like of course, like, and of
like,
course no one else is like, it's not an emergency,
right?
But she's like,
this is life or death.
Yeah,
literally.
And it's like, of course, like, hello, like. And I love that, like, small kind of, like, attitude of, like, this is what I'm doing. This is very important. Duh.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very duh kind of moment. And it's like, Leslie, not
I
duh.
don't know if it is.
Not duh.
Yeah, because, and I think that this is one of the first things we see, or not first, but first, like, big things we see, because we already know Leslie is very, strict or not strict, but straightforward and, like, dramatic, you know what I mean? Overzealous. And I just feel like it's really interesting that this is kind of the bigger project that she wants to handle right now.
Right.
Phoebe agrees.
Yes.
But anyway, she runs into Anne in the hallway and takes the coffee that Anne had for Mark. A little more sugar next time, thank you.
Yeah.
And then April says that she could set herself on fire to create a distraction so that Ron doesn't have to deal with these meetings. Like, poor thing, she's really wanting to redeem herself.
I know.
She doesn't like that she messed up. She's really feeling bad.
I know. And I can totally relate to, like, when you've just done messed up, and just being disappointed, and also, like, someone that you admire or look up to and feeling like they're disappointed in you.
Yeah.
Oof.
I know.
Man.
Well, and I think it also shows a lot of April's, like, development, because I don't think she would have really cared, like, maybe season one.
Absolutely.
But she's built this relationship with Ron now where she doesn't want to let him down.
Yeah, there's that soft side that you're seeing of, like, oh, she actually does care about stuff.
Yeah, which Andy is opening up.
Yeah.
Or Andy is opening her up, rather.
Uh-huh.
Oh, so lovely. But yeah, poor thing. And then I love this line of Tom asks Leslie if any brown concealer, if she has any brown concealer.
Or is it pre-pimple? I can't
No,
remember.
it's pre-zit. It's pre-zit. Yeah. I wrote that down
it's
too.
Like, oh, pre-zit.
Oh my gosh. And then he spends a
his
minute
cologne
in his
cloud.
cologne cloud.
Oh my gosh. She's like, shut the door, shut the door, shut the door. Which is, like, so gross. I can only imagine what he smells like in that moment. And I feel like it's very similar to when we were in junior high and everybody was busting out the axe.
Yes.
And just didn't
know
how much to use.
Nope.
And it was just like a fog of axe.
Right. Because they were like, well, maybe it's not enough because I've never tried perfume or cologne before. Maybe it's not enough.
Also,
I can't really
like,
smell it.
And like, I'm a stinky boy going through puberty. So like, I must need so much of it.
Right. Well, and it is interesting, like, on a technical thing, to every person, I didn't know this until, like, I don't know. I think I was reading a Cosmo article or something stupid, but I was, like, reading this article that said different skin types react different to different perfumes. So like if your skin is sensitive, it might take on more of that cologne than somebody else's.
Interesting.
So it's very interesting to me. And I imagine Tom is like, my skin is like perfect, but so is this perfume. So I just need to combine it all.
Right. But yeah, that is the scent that I was like, that's exactly what that car smells like right now.
Right.
And like isn't the name of it like Attack or Axe
yes,
or something?
It's Attack.
It's
Attack by Dennis Feinstein.
Oh my gosh.
I imagine
good.
he's one of those guys that like he gets asked to go on a hike or something and he's wearing like, because I've seen those people on hikes where they're like wearing nice clothes or like flip-flops with just a bunch of cologne.
Right.
That's what I imagine Tom is. Not he wouldn't go on a hike like willingly, but
no. But if he's gonna go, it's like
he's gonna be looking fresh
Yeah,
and smelling
that's
fresh.
yeah, like when they go camping and he's got like his entire like Sky Mom magazine, like yes.
Oh my god.
Absolutely.
So now Ron is rallying up all the Ron Swansons. Do you have anything else before that though? I
don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Well, cut me off if you do.
I will.
But Ron is rallying up all the Ron Swansons. He's saying he needs more. And he's got Anne, April, and Andy. And he needs anybody with a brain and a pulse. And then he tells Jerry he can go home. He's like, Jerry, you can go home early. It's fine. I don't need you.
I just need to say that I am Team Jerry. And I like don't care who knows about it because
you're Ben Wyatt.
He is like
Captain, my captain.
Yeah, he is just like the constant, I feel, of just like he is there. He is willing. He is consistent.
Consistent
he is
in his
like,
mess ups.
Yeah. It's like, but so like such a sweet nature.
Yeah.
And like he really just means and intends the best. Mm-hmm. And I am such a fan. And it makes me so sad. But then the pain doesn't keep him down. Like the rejection, and you know what it is? This is really what it is. It's because he has such a wonderful home life.
Yes.
That it's like
I
whatever happens at work is like it really doesn't matter to him. Which I feel like we could all maybe take some notes from Jerry's book.
Yes.
Right? Like let's not put all of our eggs in this basket.
Because that's not the most important thing in the
right.
world
so
at all.
I didn't mean to like Jerry deep dive. But
no, I love
feel
it.
like and also I just love that his daughters and his wife are just like these gorgeous, amazing.
I know, Christy Brinkley.
Yeah. So good.
I love that they did that. Actually, we talked about that in Park Safety. One, that it was really hard to watch Tom and April like tease him. I was like, oh, that's kind of really mean. And then the second part was that Sean, who did that podcast with us, was saying that they originally were going to cast somebody, like they were going to have his home life be bad, kind of like mean. But or maybe it was Amy Poehler that wanted that. I don't remember. But regardless, like I'm so glad that they made it so that it's really fun at home, because what a nice contrast that is. And you understand that that's why he like doesn't give a shit, because he's like, I just want to go home to my girls and my wife. And, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
I think it's great.
Something to aspire to.
Yes. And speaking of that, I think it's really cute because he just smiles. It's not an insult to him when Tom's like, no, or when Ron's like, no, you can just go home. It's fine. And he's just like, okay, great.
Yeah. Awesome. Get to go home.
Oh my God. And I love this. I also love this slight nod to Anne saying, she's like, I don't even work in this building. But I think it's really, because we've talked about that before too, where she's just always there.
Yeah.
And we're like, how much is she a nurse? I think she's a great nurse, but it's fascinating that she's always at the parks department.
I know.
So I love this little line that she had. And I also really like seeing Ron in a leadership role, because we haven't really seen that yet. Like him take charge, like you do this, you do that, like delegating things. Yes. So he's kind of forced into that. By no means does he want to. But I think it was interesting for me to see that, because usually as Leslie as a crutch to do it. So and then
stepped up.
Right. And then we've got Burt Macklin, FBI. I don't know.
Gosh.
I think it might be the second time we've heard it, like up till now.
Right.
It's still very new. Like we have not gotten the persona.
It hasn't developed.
No.
It hasn't fully developed.
No, not
These
at
are just
all.
like little
nuggets.
Little
character.
crumbs. But I love when he's like, do you have a badge? Like, what?
Can I get a badge? And then this is so heartbreaking to me. April brings Andy a coffee, and it's super awkward because he's trying to friend zone her. He's like, "Thanks, dude," and she's like, "You're welcome, lady."
But can you just like remember those times though when it's like, I don't know, we haven't had a conversation, and I could just like feel that was one of those office like moments for me where you can
Cringy.
literally feel. I like physically cringed
Yes.
and was like, oh God.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did that in the summer catalog episode when she gets turned away at the bar and Andy like backs away. He did it so perfectly.
Yeah.
He backs away all awkwardly and is like, I gotta clean. And I'm like, ugh, I hate that excuse because it's so purely made up.
Yeah.
Like I said this in the last time too. I was like, I get it. Clean house is a clean life. Like I get that is a
Right.
thing sometimes, but it was not a thing. Like Andy's
No.
not going on to clean.
No.
Oh my God.
No. But yeah,
cringy.
so cringy, so sad. And you can just see like that battle of her like not wanting to care.
Yes.
But also really caring.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
I think
such
she
a good
communicated that super well in that scene because I felt it. I was like, yes, you don't care, but you do.
Yes. And it was even in her kind of like eyes and body language. She's like half turning away.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Ugh. But like half staying in it. Ugh.
Right.
And then he has this talking head where he's like, when April was born, he was in 3rd grade. So dopey. He was a baby. She was just a baby. I don't know anything about infant care. Oh my God, I could have killed her.
I will say, so I do have a record of in my past dating men that were substantially older than I.
Oh, really? Okay.
And this is something that you do actually like
Think
I
about.
have thought about before, like, oh my gosh, when he was in college, I was
like in middle school.
not. Yeah. but like it's like the weird, and it's like that's very strange to think about.
Yeah.
So I get it, but also
But
just like
when
the
you-
baby,
Right.
just
The
like
baby
making
thing.
it like still making it relational. I'm like, oh my God, I could have killed her. It's like, okay, well,
He's so serious too.
I know.
He's so thoughtful. He's
Yeah.
putting so much thought into this. He's
Yeah.
like, maybe I shouldn't do this because this is dangerous. I could kill her.
I know.
But I do you agree that like after you turn like 20 or 18, not 18, because I know the government says you're an adult, but you're just not.
No, ma'am.
Maybe like 20, 21, like after that, maybe it's not as awkward to date like an older person. To me, because if you're 18 and you're dating a 40-year-old, maybe like
Sure.
the 18-year-old just doesn't have enough
Sure.
experience at all.
Sure.
But
I mean, I will
I guess
say,
it depends.
yeah, I feel like in a smaller town like Pawnee, where like your folks are your folks,
Yes.
and there's not like a ton of.
There's not a big pool to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's also like their friend group is their friend group, right? Like we don't have a lot of developed outside
That's
relationships,
true.
so I feel like that changes a little bit. But when you do, I will say age gaps when you're in like a larger city or people have like bigger different friend groups, it can be kind of weird because like if my friends are 25 and your friends are 35,
Yeah.
that's
like-
kind of like a different like what are we doing tonight with your friends? I'm gonna feel like an old man. What are we doing tonight with your friends? I'm gonna feel like a child.
Right.
Like so, but
Yeah.
I feel like in a town like this where I don't think April's really like out with a bunch of people all the time,
Right.
probably not as problematic.
Right. I agree. And I don't think 3 years.
No-
3
oh,
years.
gosh,
The way
no.
that they're
This is
writing
so
this, it's like
funny.
3 years is nothing.
No, absolutely not. That does not. That
doesn't-
doesn't count.
That does not count at all.
No.
And it does depend on the person because obviously
Sure.
age, like truly, I feel sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes is a number where
Oh,
like
yeah.
they've experienced a lot more than, another person their
Well,
age
sure.
would be. So you might be on a mental age capacity or
Right.
compatibility rather.
Right.
But yeah, the 3 years, I'm just like, Andy, oh God, get it together, sir.
And also like the fact of like being 3 years old compared to a baby is like, I mean, how much like what?
Oh my God. Yes. So now we get to where Leslie is talking to Nick Newport Sr., who is played by Christopher Murray. And if you haven't listened to it yet, I interviewed him in our Galentine's Day episode.
Amazing.
Please check that out if you haven't yet, because he's awesome. He has amazing stories. And he wasn't, just a reminder, he wasn't in Galentine's Day. He was in Sweetums, which was right before that, as like the old guy who's talking about like the corn syrup.
Yeah.
Look at those pigs. Look how fat they are. But also, I wanted to remind everybody too that he's in the Justin Bieber music video, Hold On. Do you know that song? I need you to hold on.
Yeah.
Heaven is a... Yes. There, he's in that music video. He plays Justin Bieber's dad.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, and he has like long hair in the episode. But when I talked to him, first of all, his voice, I love hearing his voice. It's so recognizable, but also he was like this hippie dude with kind of like a floppy fishing hat kind of thing. And he was so fun to talk to. So I definitely recommend going back and listening to that. But this was, if you haven't heard it, I'll just do a little bit of a recap, where this was all makeup and like gray hairspray and prosthetics to make him look old. He was in the makeup chair for a very long time. And he sent me a picture. I'll post it again. He sent me a picture of him on set that day taking a picture of himself behind the wheelchair, naked wheelchair picture painting thing. Wait, I want to show this to you. If I put it on my favorites.
I need this photo. So they actually had these giant paintings painted.
Yes, they actually had these giant paintings. They were done by the props department, and the props department actually asked him if he wanted to take it home, and he was like, I mean, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Where am I gonna put? Why would I put this in my home? Like, people, I would have taken it and then eventually probably thrown it away, but it needs to go in like a museum or something. Showing her the picture.
That is hilarious.
Oh my god.
Okay, I have a question. Did they do a full nude? Like, did the props department do like an actual?
Like, was his penis actually shown?
Like, and did we have some like booby presents? Did we have a butt in the other one? Like, I'm so curious. Like, or is it like we're gonna bleep it out so you don't have to finish that part?
Right. I don't actually remember that.
I'm very curious.
Okay, you know what? I'm going because he emailed. I'm gonna mark this as unread because I emailed him again and he's out of town right now. So he has bad reception. I was like, if you want to share anything again, like let me know. And he said I would be delighted. Holly, he's so nice. So I will mark this unread and I'm gonna ask him that question. So
yeah, I'm just very curious because if they're not gonna show it anyways, then
right.
You know, should you do it? But
that'd
also
be so weird.
just like didn't finish that part. I'm just real curious. But
Me
that
too.
part, literally laugh out loud. I mean, so
it's
funny.
so funny.
So funny.
I love that Jessica Wicks calls him Love Nut. And he says biscuit.
And then she literally shoves the biscuit in his mouth.
Like a dying dog or something.
One of my favorite quotes from that little section right there was Tom talking about like how she's a gold digger. He's like, but I'm a gold digger.
I'm a gold digger. He's gonna die soon, and then someone needs Jessica Wicks.
Yeah,
or someone needs to give her money.
And then also, I had this random question, and actually, my husband also had this question, and he helped prompt it. But you know, when they're walking through, like she's like, "Okay, what did you do? Maybe we can get rid of some of that damage." And she paints the like foyer Miami teal.
Yes.
Okay, real color.
Okay. Oh, Miami teal.
Yes.
Good to know.
You can buy it.
All right, you guys, if you want to be with the Turnbill Mansion,
This is what my mind thinks about when I watch shows. Like, is that a real color? Like, because she's like, oh, it's Miami teal, you know? And so I'm like, did they just make that up? And it's literally, you can buy it, Benjamin Moore Classic Collection. I have the description of the color.
Please tell me. This is great.
An electric shade of turquoise, reminiscent of the brightly colored Art Deco buildings that dot Miami Ocean Drive.
Oh, my God.
Which is so out of place in Pawnee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But also, it was hilarious that that's an actual color. And I bet that's the actual color on there. It's probably that same one. I thought that was so funny. So like they could have named it anything.
Totally.
But it's real.
And I kind of wrote this down that she kind of seemed like a housewife, you know, those Real Housewife shows.
Absolutely.
So maybe she's like a Florida housewife, like kind of that was her motivation or whatever.
Right, yeah.
So she's like,
so
I
good.
want the Miami teal.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so great! I love
Isn't that
that's
funny?
a real color.
Yeah,
little
it
bit of
is. So
trivia.
if you want to paint your house that color,
you can.
you're so welcome.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. So Jessica Wicks, we've done a breakdown for her because she was in Beauty Pageant. She was one of the judges. But for those that missed it, she is a native of Nashville, actually, which is wild. Her real name, I forgot. Why did I not write this down? Oops. Oh God, everyone's yelling at me right now, probably from home. Susan Yeagley. Okay. Susan Yeagley, you guys. All right. But yeah, she's a native of Nashville. I don't know where from, but she I'll have to send you the Instagram post, but she recently posted about the Tulip Festival at Cheekwood, which is a mansion, like we talked about. That's very similar to Turnbill. But I wonder, where she lived. We could drive by her old house. It'd be super creepy.
Yeah.
But she went to USC and she was a Sunday company member, which is awesome. Oh my gosh, Phoebe. And so if people, again, friendly reminder, if you're not familiar with the Groundlings, they have a Sunday company membership, rather, or not membership, but basically you're on a team, and if you're on the team for Sunday shows, it's like a really big deal. You have to audition. A lot of SNL people come from there, and Groundlings is a big improv troupe in LA, so definitely go see those shows. But she's in so many things, and one of the things that I have to remind you guys of, she was in Friends once.
Get out.
Are you familiar with Friends?
Yes.
Okay. Because,
of course.
I mean, I know everyone's familiar with it, but I can word quote it. But basically,
I can start scene 1, Rachel.
it's actually really bad. But I actually have a Friends poster on my wall right now. But
I can attest. It's there. I've seen it.
I've seen it. I'm looking at it. No, basically, she played the one where Joey is working at the coffee shop and he's only giving away stuff to the pretty ladies, or the pretty girls, and she's one of the pretty girls. And
oh my gosh!
And he sings "Happy Birthday," and he says he's like "Happy Birthday to you," like Amy or something. She's like Annie, or the other way around, because that's the only way that you can give free things at the coffee shop is by singing "Happy Birthday." But then Gunther gets all mad.
Right.
Anyway, she was in that, and I thought that was really wonderful. Also, married to Kevin Nealon, who, do you know who that is?
No. Tell me,
though.
though.
On Weeds, and you'll know him when you see his picture.
I'm not a name person. I'm a face person.
I know, same. I probably wouldn't recognize
that guy.
Yes, he's on Weeds. He's on all the Happy Gilmore, Andy, Adam Sandler stuff.
Yeah.
They're married.
What?
So cute. Look at them.
They probably have
them together.
so much fun laughing.
I know, so precious. And then full disclosure, also she did an episode of the Parks and I think it's called Recollection podcast that Alan Yang and Rob Lowe have, which I haven't listened to yet. I still need to. It's not that I'm bitter. Okay, I'm 5% bitter.
How dare they?
How dare they talk about a show that they worked on?
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But she was on that episode for this very 94 Meetings episode. So I need to listen to it.
Yeah. There's probably some good nuggets on there.
Yeah. And I've heard it's totally different than ours anyways. You know what I mean? Have you listened to the Scrubs podcast at all? Or have you heard of that?
No, I have not listened to it.
Those are more, it's really good and it's super funny. But they definitely don't go scene by scene.
Sure.
Which I think is what this one is with Alan Yang and Rob Lowe. They're more so having fun and talking about random little things that happen. So I think that we should team up. That's what I think. So
I think this is a great idea. If you guys are listening, you guys need to join forces.
Come on, I'll do it. Anyway, so she introduces herself as Miss Pawnee 1994 and calls Leslie Norp. So rude.
Do we think this is intentional?
That's a great question. I personally don't think it is at this moment. I just think she doesn't even remember.
Just doesn't even care or remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not really trying.
Right.
She's just whatever. Yeah. I remember your face, but I don't really know who you are. Right. And I don't care to know. So.
Right.
Also Susan Yeagley, Jessica Wicks, has a podcast, I wanted to say this, called Fiscal Firecracker, and she hosts this with Galia Guichon, where she educates, entertains, and empowers about your money. I think I haven't started listening to it, but she has a money podcast, and it sounds really cool. Comedy with finances.
Yeah.
I'm if I can have any sort of finance thing broken down to me in a fun way, I'm definitely down for that.
Yeah, needed.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh, and then Tom says, "Are you aging in reverse? Because, girl, you look barely legal." I'm like, oh, So nasty.
cringy.
That is like in real life. If someone
So
said that to me, I was like,
cringe.
nope, Tom, nasty.
So cringe.
And then this is where he says, I'm a gold digger. So he wants to take Jessica's money that she's taking from Nick Newport. I also love, we'll get to this. We're not there yet, but I just think it's this line of her saying it's love at first sight with Nick Newport after she knew who he was.
She's like, and then I found out who he was, and it was love at first sight.
Oh my gosh. Yes, her accent is so cute. I think
adorable.
she did such a good job with that kind of like Indiana housewife situation. And I also love, so Tom has that gold digger line. It's a talking head, and in the back, I don't know if you noticed this, but you can see Jessica like fixing the blanket on Nick Newport in his wheelchair, and it's so weird. And I'm like, oh, good. Here we go.
So good.
Because his blood doesn't work. They met at the hospital because his blood don't work. Oh, God.
So good.
Also, did you catch her outfit at all? I paused on it because there's like little tiny flowers.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It was really cute.
This costume department did a great job for what she would wear. And her, like, little sleeves poofing out.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Oh my
I thought it was
God.
so fun.
What's done is done is a saying where I'm from. That's a saying everywhere, says Leslie.
So
yeah,
good.
this flirting thing though between Tom and Jessica is like so weird to me. I mean, I get it obviously, but it's just, I'm like, Tom, you need to just cool it. You could have said like 5 less things and still been on her good side.
Yeah, like when she's like, I should just pay you to follow me around. He's like, is that a job offer? Because if so, I accept.
Gross.
Ugh.
Gross. Oh, and then this is where they get to the Miami teal and painted the floors black. Okay, so this is where I'll get a little bit into the mansion thing, but here's my question, and I'll tell you my thoughts, and then I would love to hear yours. I also want to preface this by saying, like, Leslie's actually trying to protect something, especially that gazebo that stands for interracial relationships and progressive ideas, and kind of moving history forward a little bit. So some of my thoughts here don't coincide with what I'm about to say, if that makes sense, so just bear with me. But my question was, like, do you think it's okay to update like history/historical sites? And Leslie is obviously being dramatic because she's Leslie, but I think you can update historical things depending on like what they stand for, obviously. Like, I'm not saying Jessica Wicks is going about this in the right way by any means. Like, at least, maybe talk about it, or she doesn't seem like she has any respect or doesn't really care about it at all, and is kind of doing this for selfish reasons, if you know what I'm saying. And just because she can, but if you update with like changes or like a revolution in mind or evolution of time, even, where we are now in history, I think that's okay. And we talked with, I think honestly, it's more than okay. Sometimes it's needed. But I talked with Brooklyn, my sister, because she was saying that in St. Louis, they're doing, and we talked with this on the pod, I feel already. So whatever, I repeat myself a lot, but Brooklyn lives in St. Louis, and she said that one of the old courthouses is being renovated, and on the website it was just like, we're doing updates and renovations, and like, it sounded like they were doing some more like heating and air stuff or whatever. But I also think she said that when she visited, there were a lot of murals similar to what Pawnee has in their city hall, where it was like actually kind of insane and jarring that these violent murals were on the walls in a public place, kind of. And so I think that might be, and I haven't visited yet, so I can't say, or I don't know if it's done yet, but when it is done, I want to go look and see if they've changed it, because I think that's one of the reasons also. They might not have said that, but, I think that's one of the reasons why they're doing it. And then let's see, Andrew Jackson's home, I was going to talk about a little bit, the Hermitage. Have you been there yet?
Yeah, a long time ago. It's one of those things like I did when I first moved to Nashville. You hit all the spots,
touristy,
Yeah,
100%. And I mean, by the way, like I said, I don't think that the Turnville Mansion is the Hermitage. Like, this isn't a serious similarity. But I'm just saying that the Hermitage could be updated way more. Number one, because there is literally nothing about the Trail of Tears. at all.
Right.
In Andrew Jackson's home.
Right.
They do say, and I do appreciate some of the things there. Like they talk about the time and factual things,
Sure.
like how things were imported.
Yeah.
Like I learned that sugar was like a huge commodity, and I didn't know. I should have known that, but I didn't know that in his time they had to import sugar from overseas, and it was just that's why it was very expensive, so not a lot of people had sugar. And I was like, oh my gosh, what a whirlwind.
Right.
What a change we're in. Now we have sugar everywhere. So like that kind of stuff is really interesting, but that has nothing to do with kind of the history of our country, I feel.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really weird that you have nothing about this. And then they were still having weddings on like right where they have like a little cotton field thing. And I was like, this is just so sick to me.
Yeah.
But regardless, that's also where he's born. So, like you can show the good parts of history, but also you can't just disregard the stuff that also happened there.
Yeah.
Like Monticello is updating a lot of their stuff, which is Thomas Jefferson's home in Virginia, which is only an hour away from where I'm from.
Right.
And they're starting to put a lot of more of the slavery into the exhibits and things like that. Because at first it was like, and this is where the slaves lived. Bye. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like whiplash?
Right. Like, yeah.
No.
I think absolutely that, especially because we can learn from history. And I think we can learn from victories, but we can also learn from failures. And we can also learn from, the things that we didn't get right so that we can get them right in the future. And so to have a full picture of history is really important. I think having that balance of this was what was really great. This is what was really informative. This is also another side of what, didn't go right.
Right.
And this is how things were that doesn't, kind of paint this in a favorable picture. But I think you need the whole picture. And I think that kind of, I almost think like the mural of like the beautiful thing happening in the middle, but then the fact that like they are, throughout this Parks and Rec show, there are these like, like comically terrible murals of like this portion where it's like, oh wow, look at this, and then you pan out and it's like, oh wow, look at all of that. But I think
violence and racism.
Yeah, but I think that's how we should pursue like preserving history is the full picture.
100%.
We're all due, and we all deserve that full picture of what's happened and what it actually looked like all together, because the truth is that isn't that just life, that beauty and like ugliness lives together. That's just how the world works.
Yeah.
And so to just
disregard
disregard the ugliness, I think is just not.
Yeah.
It's not exactly how things
right. And I think
done.
we can preserve it. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to preserve the Confederate statues. I don't want to do that. I'll just say that, and people can disagree with me if they want to. It's fine. But I do think that there should be like a memorial or more exhibits to the slaves that were at all of these mansions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they built it, and so they, Thomas Jefferson couldn't have existed or gotten to where he was without them. So it's very interesting to me. And that's also what, speaking, kind of bringing it back, Ed Helms is in that show Rutherford Falls, which is also in the Sureverse, which is also kind of what that whole show is based on. There's a statue in the middle of the town, and it's this guy who claimed to have, founded this town, but really he kind of stole it,
right? Yeah,
which is what we're based on,
right,
in America. But yeah, so I just thought that was really interesting, and I didn't mean to get all like deep or whatever, but I think that's one of the things that Parks and Rec does so beautifully is make the deep and the real comic, but also shows such light, especially in Leslie's character, because she's the one that's kind of wanting to preserve, but also give that full picture, like you were saying. So, but anyway, okay, so Cheekwood.
Yes.
We have to talk about this.
Tell me.
I'll tell you. Okay. So There is a big mansion in Nashville called Cheekwood, for everyone that doesn't know, and it's this botanical garden, but it's also an art museum.
Beautiful.
And they have a bunch of different events, like this tulip festival that Susan Yeagley, aka Jessica Wicks, went to. But they also have a Christmas thing, which is so
reindeer
fun.
there, you
Reindeer.
guys. Actual reindeer.
So cute.
Hot
light
chocolate,
shows.
light shows. It's
Keith
so
Urban,
fun.
I think, sponsored the reindeers one year when I went with my mom. It was
So
like
fun.
a little plaque that said Keith Urban has sponsored.
I
It
love
was so
it.
cute. A lot of celebrities get involved with Cheekwood. I feel like
Yeah.
they donate a lot of money to
Yeah.
it. But I was like, is this similar? And how is this similar? What even is Cheekwood? How did it become a mansion? I don't understand.
Right.
So I did a deep dive. And it's basically, it's an estate that this family, their last name was Cheek. So the Cheek family owned this from the 1900s until about the 1950s because Christopher Cheek founded a wholesale grocery business in Nashville in the 1880s.
Wow.
What? Okay. Continuing on. Then a cousin of the Cheek family, Joel Cheek, had developed an acclaimed blend of coffee that was marketed through Nashville's finest hotel, the Maxwell House Hotel.
Oh my gosh.
So, have you played there?
No.
No? Okay. I've done a couple of shows there.
Yeah.
Mostly like rounds and open mics
Sure.
and stuff. But it's in North Nashville. If you're here, you should go check it out. It's really fun. But it's a hotel called the Maxwell House Hotel, which stems from Maxwell, the
Amazing.
coffee.
Yeah.
So Cheek's extended family, which was Leslie and Mabel Cheek, they were investors in this hotel. And in 1928, the Postum this is a cereal company, Postum, which is now General Foods. So
Okay.
if you see that like signal or
Right.
not signal, the icon, it's like
Yeah.
GF or whatever in cursive, purchased Maxwell House's parent company, Cheek Neal Coffee, for more than $40 million.
Whoa.
And this was back in 1928.
Yeah, so lots of
the way
bucks.
that it's literal billions of dollars.
Yeah.
But this is what they mean when they say generational wealth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nashville's all generational white wealth.
Yes.
So then after that sale, they purchased the acreage and hired all the interior designers for it. But Leslie Cheek died just 2 years after moving into the mansion. So her daughter, Huldah Cheek Sharp, lived at Cheekwood until the 1950s when she and her husband offered the property as a site for a botanical garden and an art museum. And the Exchange Club of Nashville, the Horticultural Society of Middle Tennessee, and other civic groups led this redevelopment of the property, which was aided by funds raised from the sale of that former building.
Yeah.
Of the defunct. Not that building at Cheekwood, but they sold the Nashville Museum of Art back in the 1950s. And so that money went to the Cheekwood to create this new art museum,
Right.
Which opened in 1960. So that's pretty nuts. And I feel as though, it's very similar to the mansion just in that it's this generational wealth, this staple of Pawnee, much
Right.
like Cheekwood is a staple of Nashville. And so to take away, I feel, some building that, this family or staple
Right.
is probably very sore subject.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially, but Jessica Wicks is from Indiana, so I think anyway. So it's really interesting because if I could understand maybe getting more upset if she was an outsider just coming in to change everything, but I think it would be the equivalent of taking down a building at Cheekwood and repainting it and putting up some random, or taking down the art building or things like that. And so anyway, but I thought that was so fascinating. I was like, this is so, I didn't know what Cheekwood
that.
was.
Yeah, I didn't know that at all. I just knew it was a great place to go on dates when I first moved here.
It is.
Walk around, look at flowers, look at art,
Yes.
if it's Christmas, all the lights and stuff. But no, it's such a great place. And
It's
I'm
really
so
cool.
glad it's been kept up and it's been invested in because it really is a wonderful spot.
There's lots of events too, which is really fun, like art walks and things like that. I can't remember, is most of the events free are there any events that are free? Because most of them that I've been to have costed money.
Yeah, a lot of them you have to pay. And I think it's just for upkeep for
I do too.
whatever they're doing. But they do host a ton of events. One time I was there and they were getting ready for a wedding at Cheekwood.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
do
so
have
they
weddings
have
there.
big parties and stuff. So I feel like that's a little crossover of
This big party at
like,
Turnbull Mansion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's fascinating because I'm sure in your guys' town, wherever you're listening, there is something like that. You know what I mean? That someone's trying to do away with or change or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, so the next thing, what do I have next? We're back at the office. So Mel Cowan, who is our friend, the red-faced man, he's been interviewed on our show before. He's the one that was yelling at the little league
5-year-olds.
team, 5-year-old soccer or whatever.
This line gets me.
Who suck? His famous line.
Yeah.
I did message him and ask. He's one of my top 5 interviews. I think he's awesome. He's not a red-faced man at all. Not mean. I was like, what's he gonna be like? But he was so nice. Loved it. I asked him if he had anything to promote right now, but he doesn't. Except for his improv troupe called Sentimental Lady. There's a show coming up if you're in LA on May 8th, and he was like, "It's my first time improvising in a while, so it'll be a little tricky." But and I think that's
so
gonna be
fun.
everybody.
Yeah,
live theater and improv is gonna be a little bit of a rustiness.
Sure, absolutely.
Music.
Yeah, I hear that.
Everything.
I hear that.
So thank you to Mel for emailing me. And then let's see. April says that, she's meeting with someone and she says Ron Swanson is currently dead and she's his daughter to this one guy.
Yeah. She's like, his last dying wish is that I have this meeting with you.
Exactly. Dave Bushnell is the character the actor who plays this character that April's meeting with, and his IMDb isn't updated, and there were no emails or reps, so I couldn't contact him. So, but couldn't find him on social media either. So maybe he's not acting, or maybe just is off the grid. That's fine too.
Yeah.
So then we have this meeting with the Ultimate Frisbee Lady, which is hilarious.
Andy.
Oh my god.
I just love Chris Pratt.
I do too.
I think he's so great.
He's so funny
and
so smart about his comedy and committed.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love watching him. And this scene in particular when he's like grilling her, like, wait, what's our team name? What's our jersey? What's our color? Are we the Lightning?
The Lightning.
I love it. I love this lady too. Her performance is really good. She's so confused and like, can I just get out my sentence, please? And she's played by Tara Jane is her name. Looks like she's been in a lot of short films and this series called Social Medium that I've never watched. So I'm very sorry that I have never watched that, but I will check it out, or you guys check it out. Social Medium again. But some of the shorts that she's been in has gone on to film festivals, which is great.
Cool.
And it's a big deal. That's a win.
Yeah.
And she has her own film company to produce her stuff, which is awesome. Love
you
that.
Go, girl.
Oh my gosh, yes. Girl boss. I almost said girl and then I said babe. Girl, babe, boss.
Boss, babe. Boss, babe, girl, boss.
Anyway.
String them all together.
Right. But yeah, she was a great performer. I also I asked her about her hair. I'll see if she responds back because I thought her hair was like a very interesting, like 2000s kind of angled bob situation. And I was like, did she have that? Did
they want that for her?
Yeah. So we'll see if she responds back. And then let's see, this guy who Anne is talking to is named, this is the one where he lifts up his shirt.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
I'm like, also, okay, so Anne tells him, she's being very nice, like, I'm not a part of the Parks Department, I'm a nurse, but here we go. And I feel like then she has this montage of like 4 different people. I'm like, girl, did you tell everybody that you were a nurse? You
I would have learned the first time.
Yeah.
And just not said that. But maybe we can assume that the line just told like, oh, she's a nurse.
Oh, yeah.
And so maybe, because I feel like I need to give Anne a little more credit than that.
I like that detail.
But also maybe not. Maybe Anne was just kept telling people. I could see that as well.
I know. Or maybe somebody saw through the window that he was lifting up his shirt and was like, what the fuck is that? Yeah.
I want some of that. I need some of that action.
But okay, so this guy is named Bob Bledsoe, and he was in Grey's Anatomy, among a ton of other things. But he also goes on tour to folk festivals and other like Ren Fair type stuff. And his improv slash company or band name, if you will, is Manus O'Toole and his Imperial Tibetan Yak Show.
Oh my gosh.
It's so cool. I looked up his website and he has all these pictures of him like doing improv and like juggling fire and axes and things like that. It's really interesting. And he does the whole garb, like medieval clothes. He has an Irish music folk band.
Oh my gosh.
Check out Bob Bledsoe. That's BLEDSOE.com.
Hey, you guys, thanks so much for having me on. So my audition, I don't quite remember, if I'm honest. It was a long time ago, and it would have been a quick audition. But I'll say this, it's possible that I auditioned for another role, and they booked me for this one, just because that happens a lot in shows where if there's a few small roles, you might go in and audition. Like I might go in and audition for the plumber on a show, and they call my agent and go, hey, we want to book him for the attorney, because they thought I was better as an attorney than a plumber. In reality, it would actually be vice versa. I'm much better as a plumber. But the point is that there were a lot of those small roles of townspeople in that particular episode, and I could have auditioned for any of the other people, and then they just booked me for this guy. So I was really excited to do Parks and Rec because that's a show that I was truly a fan of and am truly a fan of. And most of the TV shows that I do, I had done a lot of like Disney shows and Nickelodeon shows, things like that, or stuff that I didn't watch. Like I did an episode of Grey's Anatomy, which is a great show, but I never watched it, so it didn't really matter to me. Parks and Rec, I was a fan of. So I was really excited to spend the day and meet the cast and everything. But when I got there, they took me to my trailer, and usually, even when you have a small role, you're there all day long, just hanging out. And nobody else was there. There was like, the crew was there, and Rashida obviously was there because that was our scene. But it became clear to me that they weren't shooting anything else that day. Like none of the other cast was there. Everything was shut down other than this one scene that we were shooting, which was kind of a bummer. And they brought me my wardrobe and said, go ahead and get dressed and come on out. We're shooting soon, which is also pretty rare. You usually don't get to set and shoot right away. And then we went and shot the scene, and it took, it was probably less than an hour that it took to shoot that scene. We did a few takes, and that was it. Then we were done, and I was wrapped. And I kind of felt cheated. I was like, wait a second, I'm only spending like less than 2 hours on this set. I'm going to hang out. So I just wandered around. I went and sat in Ron's chair at his desk and wandered up and down the halls and just looked at the entire set before I left. Nobody else was there. The crew was kind of working and doing whatever they're doing, but I'm just by myself wandering around set, which was fun to do. But I didn't get the day there that I thought I was going to get. It was a fun scene to shoot, though, and Rashida was super nice and really down to earth. For someone who grew up, she's Quincy Jones's daughter, so you would think that she would have grown up kind of out of touch with how normal people are. But she just seemed like a super normal, down to earth, really nice, kind individual. I liked her a lot. Obviously we didn't spend a lot of time together, but we chatted a bit before and after and in between shooting the takes, and she was really nice. The shirt bit was not in the original sides. How that came about was that originally it was just that I put my arm out and I wanted her to look at something in my arm, and I always try to add something to scenes that I do. And I had been at that time doing a lot of episodes of The Tonight Show. I was a sketch player on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and there are a number of episodes of that show where I either am completely shirtless or lift up my shirt or whatever, and people thought that was funny. So I kind of had this idea after we had done like 3 or 4 takes and the director said we got it. I asked him, I said, can we just try one more thing? I feel like it might be funny if I lift my shirt up to get to my arm, because that's so ridiculous, but it might be funny. And he goes, yeah, let's just try it. We've got what we want, and if they want to use that in the edit, then they'll use it. So we did one final take of that, and that's what they used. And I was really proud of that because I just thought it was ridiculous that you would lift your entire shirt up in order to get to your arm. Really happy to see that, when I originally saw it, I was really happy to see that they used that take. So the other really cool thing about shooting that particular episode is that I have a good friend named Tara, and Tara and I had been in this sort of acting group together where it was almost like an acting class, but without a teacher. It was just a bunch of actors that got together and read sides and did some cold reading stuff together. And Tara was fairly new to Los Angeles, but she was like one of the best actors in that group. and we had become good friends. We'd been friends for probably 3 or 4 years. And when I got the sides, when I booked the role, they send you the sides and they show you the cast list. And she was on the cast list. And I was like, oh my gosh, Tara booked this same episode. We're going to be on the same show. And it was just really cool. And in my head, I was thinking that we were probably going to work together on that day. That wasn't the case at all. But her scene is edited right before my scene. So she's in the room with Andy talking about the Frisbee golf or whatever that's called. Anyway, that was a really good scene, and she did a great job. And I love Tara. She's still a very good friend of mine, and that was super fun to be in a episode that she also booked. I'll also say this. This is the one show that I still hear from people that they're binge watching Parks and Rec or whatever, and they saw me on that show, which is flattering. And it's cool to have been a very small part of that show because I'm a big fan of it. Anyway, thanks again, you guys, for having me on. It's always fun to remember that stuff and chat about a fun little moment that I got to do. It was a good time.
What a guy. He was on tour for 2019 is the last one I saw on his website, but obviously that stopped probably.
Yeah. I mean,
but Ren Fairs are back. I saw that in Nashville. Well, Nashville, it's like an hour and a half south of
yeah,
Nashville.
Yeah.
I think it's in May. So
my brother-in-law.
That's next month.
My brother-in-law, I know, talk about wild. My brother-in-law goes to that every single year.
So fun. Have you gone?
I have not yet, but I really do want to go.
Yeah. It's hard because sometimes it gets so hot and like you really have to prepare yourself.
May in Nashville, you never know.
You never know. Well, because it's usually at the end of May.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting into summer.
Which is
miserable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you should definitely go. It's really fun. They have jousting.
Okay. I'm going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let you know if I go too. I don't know.
I'm thinking of like when I used to live in LA, going to like medieval nights.
Oh yeah,
like jousting.
Wait, where was that? What's medieval nights?
It's like the dinner theater show.
Yeah, but
do you remember this?
LA?
Yeah,
I don't think I ever went.
So if you guys are in Southern California, please remind me exactly what city it is in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's in the general LA area.
Yeah.
I think it's in LA County.
Okay.
But it's like,
I have to go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
There's jousting there too?
Yeah. Holly, it's this whole thing. You go and it's all like medieval themed. And this is like a big arena and you sit and like around this, like, basically it's like a rodeo arena. And then they have like this whole story that unfolds. And these nights, like you sit in different colors and like, you have like your assigned night and they make you eat with your hands and they serve you dinner and then you watch this show of like these knights doing all these tricks and all kinds of stuff and then whoever knight wins at the end of the night, like your section one or whatever.
Oh my god, that sounds
it's
like
such
Dolly
a thing.
Parton Stampede.
It's the exact same thing, just like a different,
but like, in medieval times.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a pirate one as well, which
oh my god.
I really want to go to.
It sounds like Pigeon Forge, but in LA.
Yeah.
No, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
There's also a medieval times place in like Illinois or something like this as well. I'm sure they're all over the country, but
yeah,
I love that kind of stuff. Especially
yes.
with all the fantasy books I've been reading, like it's really fun with the little flower crowns and different jewelries and things that they have there.
Yeah, man, I'm all about it. That's what it
thank you
reminds me of.
Oh, go ahead.
That's just what it reminded me of when you said that.
I thought you were saying it reminds me of ...
No.
But yes. Yeah. Well, everybody, thanks for going on that little tangent with us.
Yeah.
Bob Bledsoe, thank you for bringing that up.
Yes. Appreciate it.
Okay, so now we're talking about the gazebo and how it was historical. And it really is kind of I was thinking about this. It is kind of a true testament to how like prolific that gazebo is. Like this is representing when you couldn't marry whoever you wanted to marry. And so I really think that just means a lot to Leslie. I don't know, there were some critic reviews on Wikipedia which I don't really pay attention to all that much because they don't mean anything, especially back in that time. I just don't feel like it mattered as much. And especially these kinds of shows, like a lot of Mike Schur shows, I feel like they aren't appreciated until way later when we can kind of understand what
sure.
You know what I mean? It was just so new, I think, at the time. But some critics said that the gazebo wasn't a big enough, I guess, like, obstacle. And I was like, I think it is. But maybe it's just because I've watched it a bunch of times.
Obstacle as in?
Like an obstacle for preserving something and for her to kind of, like, latch onto.
Oh.
Like, they were like, she should have, like, if she's gonna latch onto something, it should be bigger, like they're knocking down the whole mansion or something, you know?
No, I feel like it's very Leslie Knope, and I also feel like that's the location where that event happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there is such significance in, at least I think, in being able to like walk in a room where you can think about who is in there and like knowing that it looked the same. Like that's what I love about tours and stuff like that. Of like places that they preserve. It's like, I mean, generations of people have gone through there and like what happened in this place. So I totally disagree. I think
I do too. I think it's just small enough also to, or not small, but you know, just
it's
medium
on
sized
that
enough.
line
It's on the line.
of like, is it really a huge deal? But you know what? It is, because that's like something significant happened there.
Yeah.
You know?
Agree.
And I think that's worth preserving.
Yes. I agree. I also really love this moment when Jessica says that this gazebo is a mushy old pile of rot, and Leslie throws it back and says, "Your husband is a mushy old pile of rot."
I love I'm not a stick in the mud. I just want to not. I just want to stop a party from happening. And I have felt that on so many levels, like coming into like being an adult and being like, listen, I don't want to be the downer here, but like, it is 9 o'clock. Please go home.
Yes,
I'm tired.
I would love to
I
go to bed.
would love to stop this party from happening now.
Oh my God. And then Jessica Wicks also says, it's kind of random, but she says that she hates the hedges. So this is a deleted scene, by the way. And so she had them carved into elephants. And they do not, to me, look like elephants, but I really wanted to know what poor person in the crew had to carve this elephant, because it was like really massive. I think I took a picture of it.
Really?
I think I might have videoed.
Do you think part of the humor was that it really didn't look like an elephant?
Maybe.
It's like,
because, and it kind of, I wonder if some of it was like a styrofoam situation as well. Hang
yeah.
on, let me
there's
kind of
like stuck some stuff in there.
It's so wild.
That almost looked like a dog elephant.
Yeah, you're right. It like his big ears and stuff.
Yeah, can I see this closer? I'm taking a zoom in on this. So it's supposed to be an elephant.
Yeah, but I don't see the trunk.
So there's literally no trunk. So I think this is where the problem.
This is where the disconnect was, and this is
where the problem is, and I feel like that might be. It might be kind of purposeful. Like, I had them carved into elephants, and then they don't look like elephants.
Right.
And there's like a little bit of humor in that.
Right, of course.
But
it's so funny though.
Or like they just didn't.
Where is the trunk? Oh, wait.
Or is it one of those?
It looks like the trunk is like in the back of its head or something. Or is that a tail? Shit, I don't know.
Y'all, it is not an elephant. I'm just gonna say.
We're talking about a deleted scene that you haven't seen, so I'm so sorry about that. But I'll post it so you'll understand.
Yeah, you'll get it.
Oh my God. Okay, so Jessica again just truly doesn't get it or understand what this is. So Leslie goes back to the office and she goes into the bathroom to try to find Ron, to try to talk to Ron and convince him.
That moment of hesitancy is just marches in like, this is too important.
Oh my God. And Councilman Hauser is in there. And I saw your penis.
Yeah. That's my favorite, because you can tell that she's really trying to like be cool, be cool.
Don't say it.
But then it's like she just has to say it.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm so sorry, but yes,
can't refrain.
I saw your penis. I'm so sorry.
So awful, so inappropriate.
It
this
is.
Would not fly
it
in
is.
this day and age.
No.
Oh my God.
But it's like, wait, it's like that's what someone would be thinking. Like that's what's in your head.
100%.
Like whether or not you can say it out loud, it's like that is what we would all be like, oh my gosh.
And that's what she did. And this is such a Leslie thing, because that's what she does in The Possum when she's trying to not tell Anne that the possum got released and everything's cool, it's fine. Possum, there was a possum. It released and it got into all your bras and it might have laid eggs.
So good.
Oh, Leslie. Okay. So moving right along, Andy's now meeting with someone who wants the swings fixed, and Chris Pratt Andy can't say no. Quite, so he's like,
I love the little point up at some point where it's just like, what is that even?
And then he does a little like circle and then boops her on the nose. I thought that was so hilarious.
Yeah.
And this gal is played by Tanja Collins. I think that I said that right, Tanja, and I'm so sorry if I didn't. But Tanja or Tanya. Oh gosh, it's a J. I should have asked her that. Okay, well, She'll let me know and I'll do it in a recap. Either way, we loved her performance. She has been in Hawaii Five-0, SWAT, Casual, Speechless, like so many things. And she sent us some voice memos.
Oh, yay!
I know. Okay, I am going to play them for you. They were so nice, and she did it really quickly because I didn't really give her much time, but I asked her all of our questions, like the audition,
Sure.
And what it was like to be on set and everything. So I'll play this first one.
Hi, Holly. Hopefully I do this right. Question is, do you remember your audition? I don't remember the audition because it was so long ago, but what I do remember about it is that I went out initially for a different episode, and I didn't get it. But a couple of weeks later, I got a call from the casting office. It was Dorian Frankel at the time, who was just absolutely amazing, asking for my availability for a different episode. And I was booked off the tape that I had auditioned for the prior episode. And sometimes that happens. It doesn't happen a lot. It's happened a few times for me where I've auditioned and they've asked me to go for a different role. So casting directors do remember you. It's so like when you go in for an audition, especially for a co-star role, usually you have 10, 20 girls for the role, and a co-star role is just a few lines. It used to be usually just like 10 lines or less, and you're just there to further the story, especially in comedies. I'm not there to try to be funny. I'm there to try to set it up so someone like Chris Pratt can do his funny lines. So that was it. It was a wonderful experience just being chosen off of a tape that I had done prior. But what's sad about it is, especially for actors, when you don't get a role. So when I go out for a role and you don't hear anything, when you don't get a role, we're our worst enemies because we think we obviously did a bad job. But usually it's for some just unknown reason. We don't get a call from casting saying, "Oh, by the way, you did a great job. Just we needed somebody with blue eyes or somebody with short hair." So we'll keep you in mind for next time. You just don't hear anything if you don't book it. So in any event, that was a good surprise to get it for 94 meetings.
Yay. That's so true.
I love these little voice memo,
Me
like
too.
inside scoops. They're so fun.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and to know that she auditioned for another one, because she's right. I've sent out, I think it was 3 auditions last week, and yeah, you don't hear anything at all. So you just have to really just set it and forget it.
Yeah.
And not really. That's why you have to have other like things that you're passionate about, so that you do not get so hung up on like, oh, why am I not booking anything?
Yeah.
But that's a huge, huge win. To get casted just off that tape from the last one.
Absolutely.
So they clearly liked her work. That's what I've been trying to rephrase it as. It's not about liking me personally. It's about liking my work.
Yes.
And then here's the second voice memo. She sent 3, so this is the second one.
Do I remember working on set with Chris Pratt? Absolutely. In fact, because of my interaction with him, this is one of my favorite shoots. But this was in 2010. It was the second season of Parks and Rec. The first season was like the pilot and 5 episodes, and the people went crazy for it. So when the network picked it up for the second season, they ordered a full season, so it's like 24 episodes, if I could recall. But it was fairly new. Most of the supporting cast at that time was fairly unknown, even though they had a body of work, obviously, but everybody knew Amy Poehler. SNL, this was her flagship show where she was going to transition into primetime. And that's who I really wanted to have a scene with. And remember, my first audition was for a different episode, and it was going to be opposite Amy. So I was really hoping that it was going to be opposite her. But I wouldn't know until I got the script. And when I got the script and it wasn't her, I was a little disappointed. It's Amy Poehler. She's she's my idol. And so I get on set. Chris is absolutely lovely. They put us into this conference room, and normally you will have a camera in your face, whether it's the master shot or it's behind your shoulder to get Chris's lines, or it's in front of you to get your lines. Usually you see where the camera is. Well, the cameras in this room were strategically placed behind the wall behind these 2-way mirrors. So it felt very intimate. It felt like I was actually in a conference room and it was just one-on-one with Chris Pratt and I. Now in the next room, just behind the door, is the crew. So we could hear directions being sent to us from the director, but it was still just Chris and I in the room. And it was really odd, but it felt great, to be honest with you, to not, be very aware of people behind a camera right in your face. In any event, we do a couple of takes, and then the director comes in and he goes, Chris, I love what you're doing. Why don't we do this? Tanya, if you're comfortable with this, why don't you at one point just have your mouth open like you just can't believe how stupid this guy is? And Chris, you take your pencil at the end with the eraser, and then you just put it in her mouth and just tinkle her teeth. And Chris said, are you comfortable with that? And of course it wasn't COVID, but I said, yeah, let's do it. Of course, as an actor, you say yes. And so we did the scene again. Now it was improvised where we've got lines, but Chris was just a master at just coming up with different things to react to. I think the first time, or one of the times, he took my hair and pulled it behind my ear. Another time he just slightly stroked my face with his hand. So this time when he did it and he took the pencil and he was like, all we heard was just busting out laughing next door, and it ruined the take. So we couldn't do that one, and they ended up taking the boop. But it's really hard because with someone like Chris Pratt, my role as a co-star is to just further along the scene. I'm supposed to be the straight guy. I'm not supposed to be funny whatsoever. I'm just there to further the scene along, to help set up Chris, let him do his magic. And that's exactly what he did. And it was super hard to keep a straight face. So the second scene is when he steps out into the hallway and I'm left in the conference room. I can hear him. I know I'm in the background. And he starts talking, and this is where he says, well, it's such a reasonable request, how could I say no? And at one point I'm in there, and it's just like human nature, and this is where you're supposed to think as an actor, is he left his notepad in front of me. And normally, when you're in an office or something, and somebody leaves the file open or something that has something pertaining to you, you kind of tend to snoop and try not to get caught. And that's what I was doing in this scene, and you kind of see a little bit about that, but what was just so hilarious is that I started leaning in at some point to look at the notepad. And on a couple of the takes, he turned around and he said, gosh, it's such a reasonable request. And oh my God, she's looking at my notepads, and all I did was draw penises. And sure enough, I look at the notepad and all he had been drawing were penises. Of course, that didn't make the cut, but it was hilarious. But I thought, he was such a nice guy. He just wanted to make sure that, is it okay if I put the pencil in your mouth? And I'm like, yes. And he was just wonderful. And I was just so very lucky to be in a scene with him.
Oh my God, that is such a great
love
story.
That, and it makes me love Chris Pratt even more.
I know. I mean, everything we hear about him, like his genius with improv and coming up with random things on the fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice that little piece of paper on the side, but I'll have to go back and watch that. That must have been a tiny little detail. I would have loved to see, it's not in the deleted scenes, I would have loved to see the pencil in the teeth thing.
Yes.
Because I do love the boop, though. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, him and everybody I hear about, like him and Ron, or Nick Offerman, they say that they're always very good about, are you okay with doing this?
Right.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Which I love.
I
the
do
consensual
too.
nature of it.
Absolutely.
And just the collaboration, because that's what you're there for.
Yeah.
Great. And then the last thing I asked about was just how it was to work with the crew, as a general.
The cast and crew were great to work with. It was a very happy set. I've been on some sets where people aren't happy, and this was a very lighthearted set. Loved hearing the people laugh during our scenes. I think that's mostly the way that these were shot, because everyone was just so funny. Just everyone on there was just so top notch. But even, that makes the cast even more happy to go to work on that. So that was fun. Chris Pratt, he was lovely. I've been on some sets where they go over and beyond to be good to the guest cast. And he wasn't at that level. He was a gentleman. He was very nice, but it was almost like meeting someone who was just mostly on when the cameras were on. And when he was on camera, he was a master at improvisation, and it was super hard to keep a straight face. But that was my job, was to be the straight man to his funny, but keep it as if it were a real situation. And he made it really tough. Absolutely lovely, though. Unfortunately, since it was a short day, I didn't get to meet any more of the cast because they were shooting at a different location on the studios. But overall, a great day, wonderful experience, and just top notch. So I can see why they just have such a great following. And looking back, I was so happy to have had that scene with Chris Pratt. And that just goes to show, even with acting, they always say, which is just human nature, you should do this anyways, always be nice when you go in for an audition, no matter who you meet. Today's assistant can be tomorrow's casting director. And it's the same thing with actors. It's just, even though I loved Amy Poehler and that's who I wanted to be with, how was I supposed to know that Chris Pratt was going to be such a force in acting like he is now? And I was just lucky with that. So sometimes, you think, oh, too bad, but whatever. No, acting is one of those professions where, one role can change your life. And this is one of my proudest roles. So.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you,
awesome.
Tanya, for sending that in. And I'm sorry I said Tanja before. I'm so sorry. But your name is Tanya, and I'm so happy that you sent that in. And it's so true. This business, acting and music, they don't make any sense. They don't make any sense. You never know what can happen. So I love hearing that the crew was so nice too.
Yes, and I feel like that translates, right? I feel
Definitely.
Like even in like a music capacity, I feel like I talk about this. I have a new EP coming out later this year, and part of how I want to do it is I want to capture that kind of like intangible energy of like playing music and making music with the people that you love and get along with, and because you don't always have that sort of chemistry. And so when you find like a crew or you find a group of writers or you find a group of musicians, there's this kind of like aura and kind of like energy about those moments and those experiences. And I think it translates into
the art.
Absolutely 100%. So I feel like I can totally see, and I'm glad to hear that is a happy crew. It was a happy experience. Like everyone was happy to be there. I think it totally translated.
Yeah.
And
I
was
do
part
too.
of that magic for this show.
Yeah. And I think that it's great too, because everybody that I talked to says that they weren't on set for a long time. They were like still having fun, but they sounded like they had a great balance of like, kind of dicking around,
right?
And figuring out where the comedy is and doing the work, but also like being really friendly and lovely with each other. So yes, I think that's great. And yes, we'll keep an eye out for your EP. I'll tag you so everyone can listen to
Amazing.
it.
Yes.
So fun. All right. So now, thank you, Tanya, again. Next, we are at where actually there's a deleted scene that would have gone here. And it was another guy who was talking to Ron, and his name in the show is Gary, but he's played by Craig Irwin. And I had a little phone conversation with him last night. So
amazing.
Wild. I'm going to play the deleted scene first, and then I'll tell you what he said. He's going to send me some voice memos, so I won't go too in detail, but like I said, I didn't give him a ton of time to send them to me like I usually do because of life and being out of town, but I will 100% play those. So here is the deleted scene.
Sorry, time's up. We're done.
I've been trying to get this meeting for 3 months.
I have 40 more meetings today, Gary. So I'll tell you what. If you can throw 3 bullseyes in a row, we can talk.
Don't screw with me, Ron. I spend a lot of time in bars. So...
He gets the bullseyes. He gets the 3 bullseyes.
A lot of time in bars. I love it.
You have no idea, which I thought was so. I'm kind of sad they cut it, honestly, because he was the only one of all of them, I feel like, who was challenged or challenges him. In like, I can meet you at your level,
right?
Instead of just screaming at you like the other ones are. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, so Craig Irwin, he's awesome. I haven't seen anything on his IMDb for a bit, but it was so funny that he called me, and I was like, because my email has my phone number,
Sure.
and I'm always like, I don't know, I don't care.
Right.
But it was great. And his stories are awesome. He said that the crew gave him a standing ovation because he did the bullseye scene like for real.
Oh my gosh,
He
get
didn't
out.
know that he was gonna. I'll have him explain it better, and I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
But he didn't know that he was gonna have to do that. And it's really interesting because in Summer Catalog, and the tagline or tag scene is Leslie and Ron throwing the darts at the picture of the old guys, the previous parks directors.
Yeah.
And I was like, how did they do that? Like, is that real? And apparently he said that the crew and the director were like, it's kind of hard to get this right in post. So you would save us so much time if you could maybe get it in. Like, I know that's hard and whatever. And he was like, you maybe? I'm not a dart player, but but he did it.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, that is a once in a lifetime situation.
Yes, absolutely.
And it took a couple of takes, I think, obviously. But he did do that. So I was
oh my gosh.
I would not get 3 bullseyes in
no.
one.
If someone told me that was going to be part of it, I would say I'm the wrong person for this.
Especially with people watching you and you're under
no
pressure.
Way. No way.
No.
Absolutely not.
Would not happen.
I'm so impressed. He deserved a standing ovation for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And then again, I'll let him explain the story too, but he said that Nick Offerman was like such a wonderful person to work with.
Love it.
And that he really worked with him on the scene because like dialogue had changed last minute. And it was so lovely to hear because Nick Offerman like kind of, but while everyone was at lunch, I think, worked on the scene with him and like, no, we'll get it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, such a guy, such a gentleman.
I love that.
So yes, thank you to Craig for sending those in and talking to me. So fun. Love that.
So good. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And then there was another deleted scene. Okay, this guy's name is Andy Krice. He was in Scrubs. That's where I know him from. So I'll post, like, very briefly. He was a geneticist. When Turk and Carla, if you guys are Scrubs fans, when Turk and Carla have a baby, they're fighting about, like, will people know what ethnicity they are? And so they ask a random doctor, do you know what ethnicity this baby is? And he completely guesses it correctly because he's actually a geneticist.
Right.
And it's really funny. But that has nothing to do with what this guy did here. Andy Krice has also been on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. He was also in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Ugly Betty, Gilmore Girls, Mr. Deeds. He plays an investor in Mr. Deeds, which is that Adam Sandler movie. And I haven't really heard a ton of him either, so I don't know what's going on with him, but I'd love to hear from him. I will say also he was born in Peoria, which is where Madi is from originally. So that's a nice little shout out.
Cool.
But here's his deleted scene. It's really funny with Nick Offerman.
We're all a little bit concerned about the report on standards and protocols. Yes, I read it. You were supposed to write it. What are you doing? Trying to will you away.
He's like literally grunting and squinting his brow trying to actually get this guy to go away by pure like will.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
So great job to Andy and Ron.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was my deleted scene moment. The next lady is talking to April and Andy, is talking to April, and April is literally having no idea what she's saying. It's that thing where she's like saying all this jargon. Yeah. Make an end run. You're going to have to go right to the commissioner on this.
Yeah. She's like, you know what? You're right. That's a great idea.
I bought it.
Yeah, absolutely. I did too. I would have.
Oh my God. Yeah, this lady's just eating it up, and I love April's talking head at the end. I had no idea what I was saying.
Right. Yeah.
It's so funny. This lady's name is Julie Whitner. Julie has been in Grey's Anatomy, NCIS, Bones, Raven's Home, which, by the way, did you know that's a spinoff of That's So Raven? Kind of like a Girl Meets World, but for That's So Raven.
I have heard of this, have not watched.
Oh my gosh, I haven't watched it either. I didn't even know it was a thing. But she's also a vocalist, interestingly, and she does a lot of voiceover work, which is great. She was also in Weeds, and like we talked about, there's a lot of Weeds crossover with Parks. So thank you to Julie for her contribution to this episode. Yes. So great. This also reminds me of, do you remember when April turns herself into like a Valley Girl for the Tinnifer character from Eagleton, where she's like, and she sends her into Dwayne Wade's home or some basketball player's home, and she's like, you can just jump the fence. It gets jammed sometimes, but you can go over there.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes. Yes.
It really, April can really be a chameleon, I feel, and just
Yeah,
take
I
on the
love
energy of someone
it.
else.
And then when they're at the bar, her and Andy later, and they're like, oh gosh, what episode is that? And he's Burt Macklin, and she is
Janet Snakehole.
Yes.
She starts speaking in Spanish or something.
Yeah, it's just really great. She
They can
does
both do characters
such
very well.
a great job at that. Super fun.
Okay, and then the next meeting we have is Ron and the Speedo Man. Oh my god.
Oh, God.
Literally his name on IMDb is Speedo Man, which is hilarious. But this guy's played by David Weisenberg, and he's been in a ton of things. Monk, Curb Your Enthusiasm, iCarly, Transparent, a bunch of other stuff. It says on IMDb that he went to MIT, and I did theater there when I was at school in Boston.
Look at you.
That is really fun.
Yeah.
Boston shout out, so fun. But I love this scene. Oh my gosh, kindly get your groin off my desk. Ron, oh my god.
Oh,
So
the
my
face.
body makes you uncomfortable too. And Ron's like just backing away,
Yeah,
leaning away
the
from
face,
him.
the expression, it does it for me.
I actually did not audition for the Speedo Man character that you see in the final version of the episode. I auditioned for some other character, fully clothed, who had some reason of his own for wanting to meet with Ron. I don't really remember the details of it. And I did the audition and felt pretty good about it. And then, actually, there's some elements of this story I'm about to tell that I didn't know at the time. I was told about it later by the casting director. But what apparently happened was after I did the audition, they wrote that character that I read for out of the script, but they liked me and they wanted me in the episode. So what they did is they wrote the Speedo Man character with me specifically in mind. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but it was written for me. But then they were apparently really worried because they were worried that I wouldn't want to do the role. So the casting director asked my agent if I would be willing to do the role, of the Speedo guy. And my agent then came to me and said, they want to cast you, but it's not the same role that you read for, and mentioned nothing about the Speedo. So I think my agent was afraid I would say no. But I said yes. And then I saw the script, and I do admit that I was a bit surprised, but I also had no hesitation at saying yes. It's a great show, and I'd be happy to be on it. And in retrospect, I do have to say that doing that episode was really great for me. For completely selfish reasons, I became known in that casting office as somebody who was just up for anything. And they started casting me in all kinds of strange roles, often without even an audition. And I actually, just based on my willingness to be in the thing with the Speedo, I booked a lot of more work based on that.
Honestly, it's too small. I feel like it's really tight, like around his hips. I feel so.
But
Like,
you don't want to get those too loose. You got to be careful. There's a fine line. You know what I mean? It's like it's gotta fit though.
It's gotta fit right, okay?
Yeah.
And it's bright purple. Also,
I know. I love it.
Oh my God. Some of the things they had these co-stars do,
I know,
freaking hilarious.
Props to them.
Oh, props to them.
I know this is going to sound kind of funny, but I actually wasn't bothered at all by doing this scene in a Speedo. I'm going to have to kind of explain that, though. There's a reason, and it's weird. It's almost like the universe was preparing me to do this role on Parks and Recreation, because, I do not have a Speedo body, and it's not like calls to work in a Speedo come up very often for me. But maybe 6 weeks before the episode, I was in an acting class, and it Beverly Hills Playhouse, Milton Katselas, who's one of the great acting teachers, in my opinion. And, people in that class would put up scenes that they had rehearsed, and we would all work as extras in each other's scene. If you were doing a scene in a restaurant, you'd have on the stage, you'd set up extra tables with extras eating and drinking, and to try to give yourself the feel of actually being in a restaurant. The scene that I was asked to be an extra in, took place in a laundromat. And it was supposed to be kind of a seedy, dirty, filthy laundromat somewhere. And they wanted me to be sitting there reading a newspaper, waiting for my clothes to dry. And I thought, I can help them with this kind of sleazy environment much better than if I just sat there with a newspaper. And so what I did is I sort of made up the background story that my character had just cheated on his girlfriend, and the smell of her perfume was just all over my clothes. And so I couldn't go back to my apartment like that because my girlfriend would smell it. So I went to the laundromat, took off all my clothes, threw them in the washing machine, and was just sitting there in a leather jacket and a Speedo, reading the newspaper, waiting for my clothes to finish. So I did the scene that way. And that was kind of fun. But then a couple days later, a good friend of mine in that class, a very talented producer and director and actress named Leslie Lepage, told me that she was directing a music video. And in that video, the waitress, the lead singer of the band that was doing the music video was playing a waitress. And the waitress was supposed to be waiting on this really sleazy guy at a table in the restaurant. And she wanted me to do that same character for the music video. So I did that, and, it was fun. I was harassing her and stuff. And it wasn't more than like 2 or 3 weeks after the music video that I got asked to do the Parks and Recreation. So I had already been performing in a Speedo like regularly up to that point. So when I read the script and saw that they wanted me to be in a Speedo, I was surprised, but I was kind of used to it by then. And the funny thing is, after that, I was never asked to perform in a Speedo again. That might be because people saw the Parks and Recreation and knew what I looked like in a Speedo, but it was like I was done with that. And it's never bothered me, and my wife is used to me doing crazy things, so I don't think it ever bothered her. The one person who's been bothered by that is my daughter. She was 5 at the time, and it didn't bother her then. But she's 16 now, and every once in a while, one of her friends will see that episode and will talk to her about it. And, I embarrass her just by breathing at this point. She is 16. So when that comes up, she is completely mortified, and she's been very embarrassed by that. But it doesn't bother me. I'm sorry, I don't really have any great stories about my time on set. That episode had a lot of guests with a lot of small roles like mine. And they were kind of bringing us all in and out pretty quickly. I was only on set for a few hours. I don't really remember how long exactly, but it wasn't very long. And, they kind of whisked me through everything and whisked me to set. And, we were rehearsing right away and then shooting right away after that. And I didn't really have a lot of time to talk to Nick. He did strike me as a very nice guy, but I can't really say we talked in depth about anything. The one thing I do remember, because not every program does it this way, is that we did the scene a few times, and then after like 2-3 takes, we started improvising, and that was kind of fun. He, would point to my stomach and point out that I had a really bad mole and recommend that I go see the doctor about that. And I would ask if he could recommend a really good dermatologist and stuff like that. But none of that made it into the final cut of the show. Pretty much what you see in that episode is exactly what was scripted.
Then we've got, oh yes, Leslie's trying to talk to Mark because obviously he's the voice of reason.
Right.
But then he's saying that he's heading out to meet Anne for dinner.
Yes.
And this scene is just kind of ends.
Mhm.
And it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
And I had a little brief moment where I was like, is this planting seeds of him maybe like leaving because they don't really talk as much or something?
Right.
But I think that's just in my head where I'm overanalyzing it. I think the true reason why this scene kind of ends and why it's kind of awkward is because it's showing that Leslie feels disconnected now from both Mark and Anne because they're being a couple and she's over here trying to like be by herself and accomplish this other random thing and no one's helping her and not helping her, but like she just feels like she's losing her friends, I feel.
Right. But also, I mean, don't you feel like there's a tiny bit of that like old kind of like
flame
kind of thing where it's like even if you're over somebody, to see that person moving on and you not being in that same place can kind of sometimes be uncomfortable and bring back some like, you know, so I think there might be a part of it like there's like a double whammy there of like I'm losing those two folks in that sort of season of life, but then also maybe a little bit that I feel that when I watch their interactions, there's a little bit of like, oh,
I'm not there with anyone, let alone Mark, who I used to sleep with, you know, who's now with my best friend who might be getting married and moving in together.
Very strange.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I would say that's at least 5% of it. Like, I don't think it's.
I don't
the
think
majority,
it's a lot.
But yeah, I think you're right that is probably a lingering,
just a tiny
feeling,
little bit,
for sure.
Just a tiny bit.
And then, so then we have this meeting. We're kind of wrapping it up. They have 20 more meetings left. And I think they're doing like 20. I think is not that bad. I feel like if they each
Ron's
take 5
like
more,
at his threshold.
he is at his threshold.
Well, he's over it. I think over his threshold at this
crossing
point. Yeah,
over. It's rough to watch because Ron really comes down on April. Like he yells. I feel so bad.
I know
because I don't think we've seen Ron get this angry at someone in the parks department.
Right.
That he's like super close to or getting close to or actually has shown liking. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's rough. I'm like,
it is.
Oh my God.
It's
and
really
April's
rough.
so hurt.
I
She's
know.
like, she already feels bad. I'm like, Ron, you don't have to dig it in. She already like tried to set herself on fire, offered to.
And then in front of other folks too. Like that's another level of like, oh gosh, you know, that hurts. That really, really hurts. So I feel like listening to, and I don't know the origin of this, so I'm so sorry.
No.
But listening to some of the other eps, there's a thing with pigeons, right?
Yes.
Like you're all about the pigeons. Okay, so when
Thank
April's sad at her desk, there is a pigeon behind her outside. Yeah.
Oh my
so
God.
I just notated that because I was like, I know pigeons are a thing. I don't know like how or why. But she's like upset, and there's literally just like a little pigeon in the background.
Oh, it was comforting her. Okay, this is in my head. The pigeons, I think, have no real significance whatsoever. They are just there. At first, it became an obsession to see if they were real or not. Then I found out that they were real. Yeah. And now every time I see them, I'm like, I'm gonna create some dumb backstory that has nothing to do.
They don't plan the pigeons. The pigeons are just there.
I think they're there, like for certain courtyard scenes. Like I don't think that they necessarily have them for a certain purpose. But yeah, most of the time they're like, well, we're in the courtyard. We'll put some pigeons in there to make it look real.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
I get that. Yeah,
yeah. I think they look great. There's when Anna is doing her nurse stuff out in the courtyard. There's a lot of pigeons, or like not a lot, but there's like 2. Yeah, like hanging out together.
Pigeon
on the
actors.
Sill. Pigeon actors, yes. Oh my God. Yeah, and then, you know, she's not developed, April's not like developed or mature enough to kind of like accept the like sympathy or apology from Chris Pratt / Andy.
Yeah. But he also says dude.
He says dude. That's exactly right. I was going to say that. Yeah. I mean, the way he says it is like, we're just buddy now.
Yeah.
And like, you didn't even. No, I don't like that either. And oh yeah, I was gonna tell you in one of the deleted scenes, he says he may have sold the rec center to a Quiznos.
I love it.
Imagine the Quiznos sign being over the rec center, but they kept in that he promised an aquatic center to aquatic
for the ducks, for the pigeons and the ducks.
Oh my God. Great. So then we've got Leslie meeting with Shauna Malwae-Tweep. and she tries to get the gazebo to kind of squabble the public and, rally everyone around it.
Right.
But then we find out that the Pawnee Journal is owned by the Newports.
Yeah.
And Sweetums owns that. And so it's just like this cycle of corruption and ownership and roadblocks and bureaucrats. But I do love this, though, where she's like, Gazoinkspo.
Yeah. That's my favorite.
The funniest part is that after Shauna says to speak normally, she still says Gazoinkspo to start it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I caught that
like
too.
in a normal voice, like, because this is real.
Yeah. So funny.
I love that. And then the next scene is sad because this is when April quits. And she says, you have one more meeting. It's with me. And it's right now. It's about me quitting.
Yeah.
I quit.
Yeah. What a defense mechanism to just be like, I'm out of here. I can't handle. Peace. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's really interesting, and we'll talk about it when we get to that scene, but I don't think Ron would have really thought anything about it if it wasn't for Andy shedding some light on the situation.
Yeah.
Maybe he would have later, but I don't think he would have owned up to it.
No.
He could have just been like, well, she ruined my life,
Yeah.
Okay, then Leslie ties herself to the gate.
Oh, stop. Amazing. Love
this
it.
This is the funniest comedic timing. Writing wise, this was perfect to have the gate open on the side and not in the middle.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
It's so good. My question is she standing on something?
I want to know that too.
Or is she legit
tied?
Like leaning tied? What is the sitch? Because I was trying to see if there was like a tiny something maybe on her heels, but it looks like she's really
tied
just
in there.
Tied in there.
You know what I'm gonna do, Crystal? I'm gonna ask Shauna Hagen, who is the camera operator that we talked to, because she's really wonderful at answering emails. So hopefully, if she's not too busy, she's so busy. But I'm gonna email her anyway and be like, "Do you remember?" Because she gave us this whole breakdown on the possum, which was like a fake possum.
It. Yeah.
And then it was turned. They cut it, and then it was a real possum. But oh my God, so. Great question. I think they had to have had, for safety purposes.
She's got to be standing on something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or there has to be some kind of ledge that they painted black as part of the gate.
Yeah, I'm thinking
her heel is stuck on it or something.
Her heel is or she's strapped in under her shirt or something.
Yeah, that's good call.
Because you can't see the back of her. But I'm just curious, how did we make? And then she's just putting her arms through. I'm sure.
Great question.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep you posted.
I want to know.
Yeah, me too. This tractor driver is a stunt performer, by the way. I looked up his IMDb, and his only acting thing was on Parks, and he. Okay, to be fair, he only has 2 other things at all on his IMDb, but they were both stunt things.
He's dabbling.
In Westworld, he was a stunt performer.
Oh, wow.
And then something called Joe Bell, which is a show or some project where he played a tractor trailer driver, so he clearly has tractor experience.
Sure. Yeah, on the resume.
He was already a stunt, exactly.
Yeah.
I bet he was already a stunt person, and they were like, can you just say this line and drive this tractor?
Sure.
You have to have a license to drive certain tractors, so...
Does that count in a show? Do you have to still...
I don't know. It depends on, I guess, the production manager. But typically, Universal will be like, did you do that? For safety purposes? Because if somebody does get hurt, it's on you.
You got to have a license.
We're going to get sued.
Yeah, but this was hilarious. I loved every second of this. And then I loved just... the Tom Leslie dynamic it's just so good,
and he keeps pressing the button to open it. I'm like, Tom, you're being such a
and then
dick.
when she yells at him, what is she like? Throw your tiny body.
Sacrifice your tiny body.
yes. Which just hilarious. In what world would he actually do that? Why does she think that's gonna work?
Oh my God. Yes, I love it too. And these chains too are bright yellow. Just the Speedo being purple.
Yeah.
The chains are bright yellow.
Yes.
I mean, it's just so descriptive. It's perfect.
It is. It's wonderful.
Oh my God. And
Love
then we have Ann and Mark coming to help her get out of it. And yeah, that was nice. They're still coming to get her, so that's nice.
Did you talk about anything? Any life-changing?
any life-altering decisions come to happen? No. Oh my God. And then Ron's getting his shoes shined by Andy, and this is where the whole situation of Andy being like, she's perfect for you.
Yeah.
She made one mistake.
Yeah.
And either you hire her back or I quit.
It's you don't work for me, son.
And I never will.
Yeah. I love that character, Andy. I just think, I think
I
so
do too.
fun and just really just like light
Yes.
and gives you, it's one of those like hopeful kind of resting. I feel like some characters in shows like are kind of like a little resting place sometimes.
Yeah.
And Andy feels that way for me.
100%. Oh my gosh, I totally agree with that. And someone that you can just kind of be consistent with and always look to for a laugh. It's
absolutely.
so good. I also think this is funny that Ron's getting his shoes shined because previously he made that like weird noise with his bunion and now he's getting his shoes shined again.
Yeah.
So they must have moved past it.
Right. He got that thing looked at, or
Right,
he's got some cream or something, or he's just maybe kind of in a Ron way trying to get some advice to someone who's close to April to kind of feel out, you know, what her friend
unintentionally too.
Yeah.
That's definitely not for me anyway the reason that I didn't see him going to him
No.
like, to Andy for any you know, advice at first, and then it happens. So it's wonderful. But I do think that Ron likes being around Andy. I'm not gonna lie. Like they're both the guys in the office because Jerry and Tom don't count.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is wild that Andy doesn't work even in the parks department.
Right.
Yet. Like, it's funny to think about that. But now we're meeting April's parents, and because when Ron goes to April's house, they're so nice, so the opposite of who you'd think April's parents would be.
Right.
We find out that Zuzu is her nickname.
Love it. Love it.
April's dad is played by John Ellison Conley, and he's been in 3 episodes of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, 8 episodes of Boardwalk Empire, the movie LBJ, where he plays a former White House press secretary, George Reedy, which is interesting. I didn't actually see that, but it looked good. And then Serendipity, the movie, he's also in that. And he also comes back for April and Andy's fancy party, which is really interesting.
Love it.
I follow him on Insta, and he also plays guitar, and he posts a lot of like music posts.
So
I think
fun.
he's just kind of having fun during the pandemic and stuff. I don't know. I should have looked at the timestamp, but he still, I think, has like pandemic hair. It like grow out a little bit.
Yeah.
Which every person did. And it's also really funny because his name in the show is Larry, and he reminds me of a Jerry character, kind of. And
Absolutely.
Jerry turns into Larry.
Yes.
Like Jerry, Larry, Jerry.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. And then Rita Loudgate, which is April's mom, is played by Terry Hoyos. I love her headshot. I'll have to show it to you later because she is rocking her gray, beautiful, awesome hair. She's just like, it looks so stunning. It really caught my eye. And she's been in SWAT. A lot of these people have been in SWAT.
Yeah, I'm noticing.
Several episodes of 911. Christella, which was an ABC show that lasted 1 season that I would love to have watched, but pilots and first seasons are tough, man. It gets canceled very fast. But anyway, she was also in Modern Family and Monk. Interesting trivia moment was that both her dad and her grandfather were both like kind of, I don't know if they were famous, but they were pretty well-known Mexican actors, which I thought was really cool. So she comes from a lovely line of Hispanic actors, and she just looks really cool. So yeah, I did message both of them, so hopefully they get back to me.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Add that in.
Yeah.
And it's great that the whole family comes back because then we're meeting Natalie, which is April's sister.
Yes, which perfect casting.
I literally wrote that. I was like, I want to know, like, they casted that so well. They look very similar.
Yes.
And I know they made them look a little similar with their hair and everything.
Totally.
But, like, I follow her on Instagram now because she's a musician, which is very interesting.
So cool.
She goes by Minnie Jo, or MJ. Well, Minnie Jo is her name, but MJ Noble is her music name.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have to tag her. But I'm going to read a little bit of her bio because it just was great. She's been in Mr. Mom, Good Girls, and Parks and Rec, obviously, NCIS, Lucifer, Castle. But she's a flautist. She plays the flute.
Love it.
She's also a singer, a trained dancer. She does a lot of EDM music, which is great. But I follow her on Instagram. I think her Instagram is really cool. She also does a lot of Ren fairs, or she posts about the Ren fairs. So
maybe we'll see her at this one. Are you coming? We need to know.
I know, seriously. I don't know that she performs at them, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. She might just go to them and post about them all the time. Because I never really saw her on stage, actually. So maybe she just really likes the fairy. Because she looks like a fairy. She really does on her Instagram. Yeah. She's beautiful. But anyway, so I messaged her, and hopefully she gets back to us. But it's really, I love this performance of her where she Ron talks to her and she just runs away, like literally shrugs her shoulder
Yeah.
to like block.
Yeah, the
getting close
shoulder
to
thing.
him.
It's like creates like a wall where you can't see her face,
Yes.
and it's really funny.
Such a
Yeah.
high school, middle school vibe.
Yeah, like the
going
eye
on.
roll kind of going on. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else to say about the Ludgates?
No, I thought it was just kind of a funny, like, of course those are her parents.
Right.
Like, it was one of those, it was like, those are not her parents, but also like, of course they are.
Yeah.
Like, it was just kind of like that, I don't know, it made
opposites
sense.
kind of thing,
Yeah, the
yeah.
opposite made sense.
Because she had to like rebel in some way or be
Yeah,
different and
right.
edgy somehow.
Right.
from
And her parents just being like the best, kindest
Loving.
ever was just really
that house
funny.
is so nice, very
Right.
bright, stairs,
Right.
flowers
Yeah.
everywhere.
I'm confused though. I mean, there was a part of me that was like, why are they so excited to see him? And like, wouldn't her mom, because so at the end of this whole scene, we find out that April knows Ron's secret, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, so, and then she's like, my mom has all of your, so how does her mom not be like, oh my gosh, Duke Silver's at my house, right?
Great question.
I mean, I was just a little
confused.
I was like, well, if she has every single album,
Wouldn't she know? Or is he
wouldn't
some
she like know? Or was it just so weird? And I felt like they were so excited to see him. Has April been talking? Which doesn't feel like April to tell her
Right.
parents about how much she likes her boss.
Right, and she says at the end that she hasn't told anyone. Oh, you mean like tell about how much she likes Ron
Right.
as her boss.
And
I
also, like, if I was a parent and like an older gentleman came to my door to see my daughter and was like, I'm her boss, I'm like, what are you doing
Why are you
here?
here?
Like, why are you here?
Yeah.
I would not be as
Like,
kind
happy.
as that. Yeah, I would be like, can't you just call
Right,
her
call her on the phone.
or send her an email?
Right.
Or like,
Yeah.
it felt, that dynamic to me was like, I get it. It's sweet because of their relationship, but in real life, I'm like, this would not. This is not happening. I'm sorry, but
I do think I get a little bit of a naivety almost from her parents where they're just like completely blank. All they want to do is support, kind of like Jerry,
right?
You know, like we're talking about,
yeah.
where they don't have any idea of like what could be happening. They're
Sure.
just excited that April had or has a job, you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah.
so whoever is guiding her and leading her to be this like woman of work or whatever,
Right.
They're just excited.
They're all about
But
it.
you're I totally agree with you about the why wouldn't the mom recognize him if
Yeah.
April did? Maybe she just wasn't even in that mindset.
Sure.
So weird. Also, they answered the door by saying, "You must be April's boss or whatever. You must be Ron
Yeah,
Swanson." How
so,
did they
like-
know? Did he call ahead? It didn't sound like they called ahead.
No, it
Maybe
just
he did.
maybe
he did. But then he goes, "You have a guest," and I'm like, I don't know. I'm sure they called ahead. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't mean to dissect, but I had questions.
I did too.
I had questions.
Yeah, I think to wrap that part up, I do think that it makes sense for her to just be so, the mom to be so, taken with the boss part of
Sure.
it and not even think about Duke Silver because
Sure.
she only thinks of Duke Silver with the saxophone and the sexy
Absolutely.
hat.
And also, like, I mean,
But April recognized him.
right. But it's one of those things. It's one of those things where it's like almost when you're little and you see a teacher like outside of school and you're like, wait a second. Like, it's
Yeah.
hard to place people outside of where they
Yeah.
belong in your brain. So I can understand that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Weird. Not closed. Not all wrapped up in a ribbon. Anyway, all right. So now we're at where Leslie and Tom are talking about Mark and Ann getting married. And Leslie's line, it's so sad.
Oh,
Every time
gosh.
someone gets married, 2 single people die.
Yeah.
Which is true in a sense, but very
Yeah.
morbid.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's typical Leslie, like a little dramatic.
Yeah.
Like maybe a little bit blanket statement.
Yes.
Right? Because I
She's
feel like
just
that's not
feeling it.
the end. But I think we've all been there. I think we've
100%.
all felt that. Like
Yeah.
when, you have friends and then someone starts dating, someone's like, well, we're never going to see them again. Or
Right.
like, they get married and then it's like, do we really have to hang out with both of you all the time?
Yeah.
Can we not just invite like the girlfriend and then we can
Right.
have girl time? Like your husband have to be here. So I
Right.
get it.
Right.
I get it.
It does be. It is helpful to me anyway that she's friends with both of them.
Yes.
Even though it's awkward, I do get that part.
Mhm.
But at least they can all hang out together and they already have like that.
Yes,
they know each other. And it's not like, oh God, we have to invite this new person into our life and get to know their whole like vibe and what makes them tick. But yeah, definitely. And then Jessica Wicks is performing with this harpist, which by the way, I looked up. I think I found this harpist on Instagram. I don't know for sure, but she was playing a harp. And I hope that's her because she was only posted like one time. So that's awkward. I followed her anyway.
Yeah.
But then she just tries to get one last attempt to get the gazebo saved. And her name is, the harpist, by the way, is Amy Schulman. That's her name. So shout out to her.
Yes.
Harp is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then Nick Newport Sr. is just basically dead already.
Right.
Christopher Murray, who plays that, did a great job just sitting there with his eyes blank, but then also like widening in certain times.
Right.
And then there's this party goer that says, "Is that the gate lady?"
Yeah.
Love that line. His name is Gary Rubenstein, and he has the same manager as Jonathan Palmer, the one as Marta the waitress. Eileen, shout out, and Sam, shout out to them for messaging me back. But I am... Let's see. So I am going to get some voice memos from him. He's going to do that later. So thank you so much. But he's been in Suburgatory, 911, Better Off Ted. So here's his voice memo.
Okay. First, what was your audition like? Any memories? Actually, I didn't audition for the part I ended up playing, Party Goer number 1. I auditioned for one of the guys who shows up for one of the 94 meetings. One was neighborhood watch leader, and I think the other one said park vendor. The only reason I remember this is because I still have the email from 12 years ago with the audition info. I do remember for once actually feeling good about my audition, especially back then. That didn't happen often. I remember feeling really strong and really excited and thought I had a shot at this, especially since they were casting so many different roles. But when I got the offer, it was for actually party goer number 3. Apparently there were 3 party goers. Again, I only know this because I just looked up my old emails, and it's in the email. And there were several party goer lines at that point. There's that weird lady, I think is one of them. The line I ended up having something like, is that gate lady? Anyway, by the time we shot it, I was party goer number 1. I guess I got a promotion, and I had the one line. Actually, I had more than one line. I had 2 lines. There was the one line, and then Leslie says something. I don't remember if it was a joke or she makes an important point about the gazebo, but I laugh and clap, and I'm the only one. And she points to me and says, "This guy gets it." Unfortunately, it was cut. Anyway, that's about the audition. The day was a little long, not the longest I've ever shot a show for, but it was, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 hours. We started at the studio. I don't remember which studio. And then we all got in a van, and they drove us out to Pasadena, which is where the mansion was. The van ride was fun and a little scary because that was when I first met Amy Poehler. We all went together. It was Amy Poehler. It was, I believe his name was Christopher Murray, who played the old man, Susan Yeagley, who played Jessica, and a couple of other people. I don't think Aziz was in the van. I don't know how he got to the location, but I don't have a memory of him being there. But I remember sitting there 2 rows back, and there was Amy Poehler in the front. That was when I first met her, very briefly. So, the location was in Pasadena. Nice mansion, as you can see from the episode. I was there for like 3 hours before we shot. I had nothing to do. They were setting up the party, and we got there during the day. And of course, for my section at least, we waited till the nighttime to shoot. I don't remember them shooting any other scenes, but they may have been doing the gate for all I know. I know there's another scene outside during the day on the lawn, but I have no memory of watching them shoot that. I do remember seeing Susan Yeagley wandering around as well and just, hanging out in the mansion and admiring things. And the mansion was cool. Side note, which may or may not be interesting, I actually moved to Pasadena a few years later, and I had completely forgotten about shooting an episode in Pasadena, and I was driving one day and my GPS was taking me down the street and something looked really familiar, and I just glanced over and said, oh my God, that's the mansion where we shot Parks and Recreation. Anyway, that mansion was cool, and they had so much equipment, and it was they were obviously so careful. I can see all the padding and things that they did to keep everything safe. Let's see. Did you get to interact with any other cast or crew? Did it stand out? As I said, I met Amy Poehler briefly at the studio. I don't remember what studio we left our cars at, but that's where I got into my costume and had makeup, and then we all got into a van and drove together. I did talk to her briefly in the car. And another interesting thing, Susan Yeagley, who played Jessica, I believe her character's name, was married to Kevin Nealon. As far as I know, she's still married to Kevin Nealon. And he showed up on the set for a couple of hours and was just hanging out, drinking coffee. He seemed to know a couple of the other people, maybe the writers, some of the other cast members, but that was kind of cool. He seemed very nice. I didn't have that many interactions with the rest of the cast, to be honest. It was just kind of waiting to shoot, wandering around the mansion, and like I said, I didn't even see Amy Poehler between the time we got out of the van until we shot. Little fun detail, I guess, one of the memories that popped up was they had a cappuccino machine, like an old-fashioned. It looked like one of those things you have at a carnival, a little guy with a cart, and you can have cappuccino. And I don't know if this is a real memory or not, but in my memory, they had a popcorn machine, like from a carnival, a guy making popcorn. I have no idea if that's a real memory. I know the cappuccino machine was there, but for some reason, I remember a carnival popcorn machine. There was a lot more shot than aired. Amy Poehler had a lot more of her speech. Like I said, there was a moment when she says something and I applaud and clap, and I'm the only one, and she looks at me and says something like, this guy gets it. Which was a cool moment because I didn't get to interact with anyone in this scene. I just had my one line. So it was great to have a moment with Amy Poehler, and you can feel her energy. I mean, she looked me in the eyes when we were talking, and there was this energy and focus from her, which was amazing. And it was a great moment that unfortunately got cut. But there was also a lot of lines that she improvised, and Aziz improvised as Tom. At the end of the scene, as she was being ushered out, the line that made it in was about the cake. If I remember right, she had variations on that, asking about cake. I even think the cake may have been presented at that point. And Tom always ended the scene giving a plug for his club. I think he had a club at that point on the show. He would even pass out flyers, if I remember right. And if I remember right, he would change the pitch that he's giving to everyone about the club every time he left. And Amy would say something different every time. So it was, if I remember right, it was mostly scripted for the first half of the scene. And then the second half of the scene was a lot of improv. And Amy was perfect and funny and great every single take. I mean, there wasn't one take that probably couldn't have been used. It was amazing. I was thrilled to be there, of course. I loved Amy Poehler, but to be honest, I had never seen the show at that point. I didn't start binging the show till maybe 2 years after I was on it. So I was actually kind of sorry because I loved the show, and it would have been a little more exciting to have been part of a show that I already knew and to be in that world. But still, to this day, I'm just thrilled to have been part of that Parks and Recreation world, even though it's just one silly line. Okay, I hope that's helpful. If I remember anything else, I'll send it, but that's all I can think of at the moment. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that. So fun to hear from all of them. I mean,
yeah,
it was nice to get a lot of messages back from people.
I love that.
So anyway, Leslie's trying to apologize, but the way she does it isn't really great. And she's doing this thing where like she's not being empathetic because it's purely, and I say this loving Leslie and relating to her on so many levels, but this apology quote is so selfish. It's just like, I just want to wrap up my feelings about Mark and Anne a little bit, and then I also just want to say sorry real fast and let everyone else know that I am apologizing, because she could have just gone to Jessica Wicks or Nick Newport Sr. or called them or something, or had a little meeting and been like, yo, sorry, I was kind of like effed up that I did all that at your birthday party.
Right.
But not to say that Jessica Wicks is perfect, because she could have gone about this in a different way too. I like what Cheekwood did. I meant to say that too. Like, they had the Nashville like architectural and agricultural like what are the words? Organizations and committees and stuff involved. That I think is okay. Yeah. Because you're like including the city, whereas this lady's just like randomly painting shit, you know,
for like a couple of hours.
Which she's selfish too. So this is just a mess.
Yeah, I get it. But like, haven't we all been in that place where it's like we're kind of just apologizing to make ourselves feel better?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it's like, I'm actually don't really care how you feel about this. I just need to like feel like,
off my chest.
Yeah, I feel like I need to apologize and feel like you're okay and we're okay. And it doesn't even matter if you really aren't okay, as long as I just get like, okay, that's fine.
Right.
I mean, we've all been there, but
100%.
I love when it's like the final, like, can I have a piece of cake? It's like, that is the true. Yeah.
that shows that it's not about the apology at all. I say that frequently to like my family. I'm always like, the apology is not about you. It just isn't. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I get it. It's very Leslie and super funny. Oh, I have a deleted scene actually where it's so hilarious. And I'm glad they cut it, because again, like we were talking about, where it's a fine line with the gazebo and like knocking down a whole building or something, and the stakes and how it escalates. This one was too escalated, I feel, but you'll see.
Done. You want to know what I wished for? I can't tell you because it wouldn't come true. But I will tell you this. If this mansion goes back to the way it was tomorrow, then wishes do work. History was destroyed tonight. I hope you're happy, Mr. Newport Sr.
Biscuit.
Get out of here. Fine. I'll leave, and so will this party. It's over. We're gonna go now. Lights out. Come on, Tom.
That's my husband's breathing machine.
Is it? Sorry, my bad.
Sorry, everyone. By the way, though, Wednesdays at the Snake Hole Lounge, we got $2 kamikaze shots and DJ Blow.
So he just it's just pure chaos in this brief second where she blows out all the candles, and then she says, I'm gonna take the lights out, and she unplugs this like electric cord, and it turns out to be the life support machine or breathing machine. And then Tom is like, whatever, dude. And then Tom continues to go on and promote his club, but then he also says, you know, Jessica, if you ever need someone to lean on in case someone dies, you know, whatever. And
just too much happening. Too much happening. Yeah. Oh my God. I feel like what they had was perfect.
Yes, I do too.
Because it was frantic. It was like that last kind of like last ditch effort.
Yes.
And also, by the way, that cake was so cool looking.
Oh my God.
Like shaped in the numbers. And
I loved it.
So cool.
It was, that whole party I thought looked really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like,
if you've got the money, honey, then
I mean, don't paint, you know, like a historical building on the inside, or it's like original hardwood. But I mean, have a fun party.
Have a fun party. Do it somewhere else. I'm just kidding. Anyway, all the people were freaking out and gasping as well, which is that deleted scene was so funny. Oh God, but so cringy as well. But and speaking of cringe, I think it's really interesting that you said that about The Office, like physically feeling the cringe. I feel like this is kind of a very Michael Scott way of apologizing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like he would totally do something like that. And the cake line is very Michael Scott too.
Yes.
Right? Like not understanding.
Or a Dwight line too. Like,
like just not understanding like the social cues of what is happening in that moment, because they're so tied up in their own like little world at that moment. Yeah, absolutely.
Ugh, love it. Okay, so now I'm at the tag where a guy is coming up to meet with Ron. He was supposed to meet yesterday, but he had some car trouble. I'm wondering if he can meet him.
And April gets it right.
April gets it so right.
Yes.
Can you come back at 2:56 p.m.? What is she?
No, 260. Is it 265?
60, yeah,
56 exists. Like that. Right. 265 doesn't though.
Or she says March 19th.
Yeah.
That's when he's available.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This fellow's name is Gregory White, and he's been in a ton of stuff. And that movie, Rumor Has It, with Jennifer Aniston. Have you heard of that movie?
Yeah.
I've watched that. Gilmore Girls, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, West Wing, like so many things.
Wow.
I felt like this was like a common thread of the outsiders coming into the parks department and being like, what is this place?
Yeah.
Like, I remember Tom's like nurse girlfriend or whatever, or doctor girlfriend, is always like, what's going on here?
Which I appreciate, because in real life that would be the like, what is happening?
Yes.
Yeah.
The parks department is just like this, multiverse,
Right.
like parallel universe, and someone comes into it and is like, what the F is happening?
Yeah. I mean, like Ron is carving a swan.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
literally
in his
wood
office,
carving.
he's like wood carving a swan. And it's like, what is happening? And what just brings me so much joy to my soul is his little smile at the end. That just like, he's so happy. And it literally warms my heart.
Oh my gosh. I love
that
his
little
smile.
face, like his little eyes closed and his little mustache and the whole thing. It's a vibe.
Anytime he smiles, it's very like heartwarming.
It
And
is.
also, especially in this one too, because April and him are back on good terms.
Right.
Especially after he yelled.
Yes.
It got nasty.
Yes.
And now they're good.
Mm-hmm.
And April's like, I think that was a good way for her to get another chance.
Yeah.
Which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing I was going to play is there is a gazebo restoration deleted scene.
Ooh.
What's his name? Hamilton comes back.
Okay.
Well, Hamilton in real life. I forgot his name in the show. But
Bill
Haggerty.
Bill Haggerty.
There you go. Our council member,
Yeah.
senator, or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Whatever politician.
Right.
I really like it. It kind of wraps up. Because we don't really get any sort of...
No, and it
like,
makes
what
me
happened.
sad that they actually did destroy that gazebo.
Yes,
I
they
mean, you have that view of it getting hauled off. And
so sad.
it's kind of sad.
It is.
Yeah.
We lost.
Yeah.
Which, again, I think that's something that Parks and Rec does so beautifully is kind of showing what really happens when you try to be progressive or something like, or try to preserve. Like, I go back and forth on this one with Leslie because sometimes I'm like, you're playing the person that doesn't want to like move forward, but you're also trying to preserve something that was progressive at one time. So it's kind of confusing.
Right. I mean, I feel like a gazebo at like a specific property. I mean, why would we
built it or done something or like put a plaque,
like painted it or put a plaque up? I feel like it did have a little plaque next to it.
Oh, okay.
In the scene where she's standing on it, but I mean, I feel like I mean,
there were other ways to recognize
that's part
still.
of like a historical moment in their town.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that should be preserved.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Especially with it, but I do think that it would make sense for people that aren't as progressive, like just having come from a small town like this, where they would probably be like, well, an interracial couple, like that doesn't even really matter. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like just take down the gazebo.
Sure.
Who even cares? But
Sure.
Leslie's being like, no, this is important.
Yes.
This is a part of us moving forward.
Yeah.
Even though this mural is awful and they got killed anyway.
Right. Right. But it's a moment,
and
right?
a reverend doing it too.
Yeah.
It's like there's just so many layers with religion and race and X, Y, and Z, and it's nuts. But yeah, there's not really an answer to what actually happens.
So do we get an answer?
We get a little bit of an answer.
I love
and
it.
I like it. Bill Haggerty's crying.
There is some good news, Bill. We're taking some of the wood chips and we're grinding them up and making mulch, and we're going to add that to our new memorial flower garden.
That's something, I guess.
It's better than something, because we're adding new history to old history. Plus, while the gazebo was glorious and important, it was also moldy and smelled of squirrel turds.
I love that. That's
So
great.
Yes, I think that was beautifully written as far as it's not nothing, but
Right.
it's not great.
But it's something.
It combines history.
Yeah,
it is something. It
it's
combines both
something.
the histories.
Yeah, you're
So-
taking like the crap and turning it into something that's not as crappy.
Exactly. And the mold can like help grow things maybe if they, I don't know, whatever. I'm not an agriculturist. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we were just saying before I played the clip, like you can do it in the right way. So,
Yeah,
or a
absolutely.
nice way.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that was 94 meetings.
Oh my gosh.
Do you have anything else, any notes that you didn't get to say?
Love that episode. I just had one thing that is like really not related to anything. So I was watching this in preparation for coming on, and my husband walked by and he was like, a lot of people are comparing Ted Lasso and Parks and Rec, and they're saying that Leslie and Ted are kind of that similar, like optimistic, like bright character that you like want to win, and that whose optimism and love and like we're gonna get this done attitude. And he's like, yeah, a lot of people are making comparisons, and I was curious. I was like, I wonder if there's any crossover. And I didn't do much research, so there might be more. But I was like, I wonder if there's any crossover with like people involved or like, and I didn't find anything except that Brendan Hunt, who like helps write and is in Ted Lasso, actually made an appearance on Parks and Rec in the Sweetums episode, where he's the one who is standing up during the like council meeting and asks for Anne's number. And so he makes like a little appearance on there, and that was the only connection I could find. I mean, I didn't have much time, but I found that very interesting, and I was like, I feel like they are pretty similar characters.
I know that the creator or co-creator with, because what's his name, Jason Sudeikis, I think was very involved in that as well. But the creator was Bill Lawrence, who created Scrubs.
Okay.
So the Scrubs dude isn't really with Parks and Rec at all. I'm sure they're all in some sort of comedy situation, but
maybe they hang out. I don't know. I just thought, I was like, I wonder if there's some sort of like similarity, because the messaging is super similar in like the big picture kind of way.
I love it.
And so I was just curious about that, but honestly, not much. But anyways, fun trivia fact.
Yes, definitely fun trivia fact. I need to watch Ted Lasso. Full disclosure, I haven't watched it yet because I don't have the Apple. I need to get the Apple.
Oh my
TV
gosh.
one.
So here's what we do.
Okay, tell me.
We wait till the whole season is out.
And then you buy the whole thing?
No, we just subscribe to like the 1 month free. And then we binge, and then we cancel, and then we repeat. So I feel like it doesn't cost anything. That's how we do it. Apple's probably going to come after me now.
No, they're not.
This.
We're not big enough for that. So.
You don't know. You never know. They're like scrubbing podcasts for like certain words.
Putting the search engine, Apple free subscription, cheating.
Yeah, but that's what you should do, and it's a wonderful show.
I mean, there are so many good things on Apple. I need to do the morning show is also on that one.
Have not seen, but I do want to.
I watched the first 2 episodes on a plane, and it was so good. Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, and Steve Carell are all phenomenal.
Love all of them. All of those people.
Oh, so good.
So good.
Okay, I don't think I did this at the beginning, but obviously with our story of how we met, I told everybody that we are musicians, and Crystal is a musician. So
I sure am.
Please follow her if you haven't already, whilst you have been listening. Where can we follow you? What is your Instagram?
Okay, so you can follow me on Instagram at Crystal Leigh Music, and that's CrystalLeigh. And then the word music, music. You can find me on Facebook using Crystal Leigh Music. You can find me at crystalleigmusic.com. I'm on the Spotify, the Googles, all the things.
All those things.
I have 2 EPs out, and I have one coming up this year. Really excited about it. Gonna go in a little bit of a new direction, so I'm really stoked about it. That's where you can find all my stuff.
Yay! I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Oh my gosh, Holly, this was so fun.
Yes.
And I love Parks and Rec, so I will come back anytime to talk about episodes. But thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's such an honor. This is so fun to do it in person too.
Yeah, and thank you guys for listening and
I know we
hanging
went
out
on
with
for
us.
a long time, but honestly, you can take it in breaks if you need to. I just don't care how long it is because that's what I always say. Like, because Busy Phillips, and here I go ranting to make it like 3 hours long. But Busy Phillips has a podcast, and they always talk about how people are saying that we should make it shorter, and the only people that are really saying that are like executives and stuff.
Sure.
And so they decided not to go with an executive or like a company or whatever. They're like, we can do this.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah.
And my argument is always like, you can pause it. and then
Oh,
listen
yeah.
the next week.
You can pick
You know?
up whenever you want to.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. We really appreciate it. We'll be back next week, and we hope that you have had a lovely Easter weekend. Hopefully you're not in like crazy storms or anything from the spring.
Yeah.
But yeah, have a lovely weekend, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye. Tiny claps.
There's a park and some pals, and there's also therapy too.